The wind doesn't just blow here, it scours. It scrapes across the endless expanse of the Montana Territory like a rough stone against skin, stripping away warmth, patience, and eventually feeling. You're standing at the edge of the parade ground, though in this pre-dawn darkness, it looks less like a military post and more like a collection of snow-buried mounds, huddled against the indifferent sky. The air is so cold it feels solid, a physical weight pressing against your chest every time you try to inhale. Your breath puffs out in thick white plumes that freeze instantly in your moustache, creating tiny, heavy icicles that tug at your skin. Above you, the stars are hard and bright, indifferent diamonds scattered across a velvet void that seems to stretch on forever. There is no sound but the high, thin keening of the wind through the pines and the dry crunch of snow beneath your boots. It is a texture you will come to know intimately, the squeak of frozen powder that tells you the temperature has dropped to a point where metal burns like fire. You pull your collar up, the rough wool scratching your neck, smelling faintly of lanolin, wood smoke, and the enduring musk of unwashed men. It is beautiful, in a desolate, terrifying way, but mostly it is cold. So before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy this kind of quiet journey into the past. And I'd love to know where you are listening from and what time it is for you right now. It is always grounding to know who is out there in the dark with us. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. Congratulations, you've just woken up in the year 1877. The good news, you are a Buffalo Soldier, a member of the 10th Cavalry, respected for your courage and resilience. The bad news, it is 30 degrees below zero. Your uniform was designed for the heat of the desert, and the sun won't rise for another 2 hours. The first thing you notice isn't the glory of service or the pride of the uniform. It is the numbness in your toes. You're lying on a cot that feels less like a bed, and more like a wooden shelf covered in a thin, lumpy mattress stuffed with straw. The straw has broken down over months of use, turning into a fine dust that smells of dry grass and old sweat. You shift your weight, and the wood creaks loudly in the silent barracks. The room is long and narrow, built of rough-hewn logs that were cut green and have since shrunk, leaving gaps where the chinking has fallen out. Through those gaps the wind whistles a low, mournful tune, carrying with it fine drifts of snow that pile up in the corners of the room like white sand. You pull your blanket tighter. It is a standard-issue wool blanket, grey and scratchy, heavy but never quite heavy enough. It smells of damp dog and tobacco smoke. You're sharing your body heat with the air, and the air is winning. Your breath hangs in the room, a personal fog bank that obscures the ceiling beams. To your left and right, you hear the sounds of other men sleeping, the rhythmic breathing, the occasional cough that rattles in a chest, weakened by the smoke of indoor fires, the shifting of heavy bodies on creaking frames. You have to get up. The bugle hasn't sounded yet, but your internal clock, honed by months of rigid discipline, tells you it is time. The hardest part of the day is the first 5 seconds, throwing back the blanket and exposing your skin to the stagnant, freezing air of the barracks. You swing your legs over the side of the cot and your feet hit the floor. The floorboards are ice cold, sapping the heat from your soles instantly. You reach for your socks. They are wool, thick and stiff, hanging over the end of the bed where you hoped they might dry out overnight. They haven't. They are still damp from yesterday's patrol, clammy and cold to the touch. Putting them on feels like wrapping your feet in wet clay. Next, the boots. They sit by the foot of your cot, black leather scuffed grey by the elements. Over the night, the moisture in the leather has frozen. The boots are rock hard. You have to beat them against the floorboards just to loosen them up enough to slide your foot inside. Thump, thump. The sound echoes down the line of sleeping men, but no one stirs. They are used to it. You force your foot in, wincing as the stiff leather bites into your heel. It will take an hour of walking before they soften, an hour of walking before your feet feel like they belong to you again. You stand up, your knees popping in the cold. You reach for your trousers, reinforced at the inner thigh for riding, heavy canvas that feels like cardboard until your body heat warms it. You pull on your flannel shirt, then the heavy blue wool blouse of the uniform with its brass buttons that feel like ice against your fingertips. The wool is itchy, a constant low-level irritation that you stopped noticing months ago. It is just another texture of life here, like the grit in the beans or the calluses on your hands. You walk toward the stove in the centre of the room. It is a cast iron beast, currently dormant, a pile of grey ash in its belly. It is your job this morning to wake it up. You open the iron door with a metallic screech. The smell of cold ash wafts up, dry and acrid. You reach for the kindling box. Split pine, dry and resinous. The wood feels rough and splintery. You arrange the sticks, your fingers clumsy with the cold, then strike a match. The sulphur flares, a brief pungent scent that cuts through the stale air. The flame catches the wood, crackling and popping, promising warmth that won't fill the room for another hour. You huddle close to the iron, holding your hands out. Your palms are dry, the skin cracked near the knuckles from the dry winter air. You watch the firelight dance on your dark skin, turning the ashiness of the cold into a warm copper glow. For a moment it is just you and the fire and the wind outside. This is the quiet before the demands of the army take over. You cherish it, even as you shiver. The door to the barracks opens and a gust of wind rushes in, carrying snow that swirls across the floorboards. A sergeant steps in, shaking snow from his hat. He looks at you, nods once. A silent acknowledgement of the cold, of the duty, of the shared reality of being black men in blue coats on the edge of the world. He moves to the stove, extending his own hands. You don't speak. To speak would be to break the spell of the morning, to admit that it is cold, to admit that you are tired. You just stand there, two silent figures in the growing orange light of the stove, listening to the wind try to tear the roof off. You step away from the stove to gather your gear, your belt heavy with the weight of ammunition, your carbine, the metal stock painfully cold. You check the action, the metallic clack-clack sound reassuringly precise in the chaotic weather. You run your thumb over the wood of the stock, smoothed by use and oil. It smells of gun grease and steel. This tool is your life. You treat it better than you treat yourself. You wipe a speck of dust from the barrel with a rag, the fabric soft with oil. The bugle sounds outside, a brassy, intrusive blare that cuts through the wind. The barracks erupts into groans and the rustle of wool. Men rise from their cots, shadows becoming solids in the dim light. The day has officially begun. You button your greatcoat, a massive garment of heavy wool that reaches your knees. It is your shell, your house, your armour against the wind. You put on your forage cap, pulling the brim low, and wrap a wool scarf around your neck, tucking it into the coat. You step out the door, and the world turns white. It isn't snowing heavily, but the wind is picking up the fallen snow and driving it horizontal. It stings your face like sand. You lower your head and trudge toward the stables. The smell changes as you approach the long, low building. The sharp, clean scent of snow gives way to the warm, heavy odour of horses, manure, wet hay and leather. It is a pungent, living smell, and to you it smells like safety. Inside the stables it is darker than the barracks, but warmer. The body heat of 60 horses raises the temperature just enough to stop your shivering. You walk down the row of stalls, listening to the soft snorts and the stomp of the hooves on packed earth. You find your mount, a sturdy bay gelding with a thick winter coat. He turns his head to look at you, his breath steaming in the lantern light. You rest your hand on his neck. His fur is coarse and warm, a living furnace. You lean your forehead against his flank for a second, stealing his warmth. He shifts his weight, the leather halter creaking. "Morning," you whisper, your voice raspy from the dry air. The horse nuzzles your pocket, looking for grain. You have none yet. You grab the curry comb and begin to work. The repetitive motion of grooming is meditative. Scrape, tap, scrape, tap. Dust and dander float in the shafts of light from the lanterns. The horse leans into the pressure. This is the bond that keeps you alive. Out on the plains, in the deep drifts, this animal is the only thing that carries you. If he fails, you die. It is that simple. You check his hooves, lifting each leg. The iron shoes are cold, the frogs of the hooves rubbery and firm. You pick out packed snow and dirt, ensuring his footing will be sure. The sensory details of the stable are overwhelming compared to the white void outside. The rough texture of the hay bales as you break off a flake for feed. The sweet, dusty smell of the dried grass. The sound of grain pouring into a wooden trough, like rain on a tin roof. The clink of bit chains. The murmur of other troopers talking to their mounts. It is a community here, A brotherhood of men and beasts huddled against the winter. You saddle up. The saddle blanket is heavy wool, rough and thick. You smooth it over the horse's back, careful to remove any wrinkles that could cause a sore. The saddle itself is a heavy McClellan, a frame of wood and rawhide that is durable but notoriously uncomfortable. You cinch the girth, the horse inflating his belly in protest. You knee him gently in the ribs, tighten the strap and check it again. The leather creates a rhythmic creaking sound, the music of the cavalry. You lead the horse out into the yard. The wind catches the door as you open it, trying to rip it from your grasp. The horse dances sideways, unhappy about leaving the warmth. You soothe him with a low voice, your gloved hand firm on the bridle. The snow is deeper now, drifting against the stable walls. You swing into the saddle, the leather cold and stiff beneath you. The view from up here is different. You can see over the heads of the men forming up in the yard. You see the layout of the fort, the rectangular geometry of civilization imposed on the wild, curving landscape. The sergeant barks orders, his voice snatched away by the gale. You fall into line, knee to knee with the trooper beside you. His horse is a grey, ghost-like in the snow. You glance at him. His scarf is pulled up to his eyes, his hat pulled down. All you see is a strip of dark skin and eyes watering from the cold. He winks at you. You nod back. No words are needed. You are buffalo soldiers. You endure. The column moves out. The sound is a dull thudding of hundreds of hooves on packed snow, the jingle of bits and sabres, the creak of leather. You leave the shelter of the fort buildings and hit the open plain. The wind strikes you full force now, a physical blow. You hunch your shoulders, tuck your chin, and let the horse do the work. The horizon is a blur of white and grey, the sky pressing down like a lead weight. There is no sun yet, only a lightening of the grey to the east, a bruise-coloured dawn that offers light but no heat. You are patrolling the telegraph lines today, miles of wooden poles strung with wire that sings in the wind. The wire is the lifeline of the frontier, the voice of the government, and it breaks constantly in the ice. Your job is to ride the line, look for breaks, look for trouble. It sounds simple. It is agonizing. You ride for hours, your body settling into the rhythm of the horse. The cold is insidious. It starts at your extremities and works its way inward. First your toes go numb inside the stiff boots. Then your fingers, despite the heavy gloves, begin to lose dexterity. You flex them constantly against the reins, trying to keep the blood moving. Your nose runs, and you wipe it on your rough woolen sleeve, the fabric scraping your raw skin. The moisture freezes on your upper lip almost instantly. The landscape is monotonous, a rolling sea of white interrupted only by the dark, vertical lines of the telegraph poles. The wire above hums a high, eerie note, a constant companion to the wind. You watch the ground for tracks, for signs of movement, but the snow hides everything. It is a blank page that erases history as soon as it is written. Even your own horse's tracks are filling in behind you within minutes. Hunger begins to gnaw at your belly. Breakfast was hardtack, a dense, dry cracker that tastes like flour and dust, and black coffee that was scalding hot one minute and ice cold the next. You reach into your saddlebag for a piece of dried beef. It is frozen solid. You have to tuck it inside your cheek like tobacco, and let it thaw slowly before you can chew it. The taste is salty and metallic, like blood. It gives you something to do, a distraction from the cold. The sergeant raises a hand, signalling a halt. He points to a pole ahead. The wire is down, snapped by the weight of ice and the fury of the wind. It lies coiled on the snow like a black snake. This is what you are here for. You dismount, your legs stiff and unresponsive. When your boots hit the ground, the impact jars your spine. You stumble, grabbing the stirrup leather for balance. The horse stands patient, head low, icicles forming on his whiskers. You walk to the pole. The snow is thigh-deep here. It is heavy, wet snow, the kind that clings to your wool trousers and melts against your skin. You have to dig the wire out. You use your gloved hands, sweeping away the drift. The wire is cold enough to burn. You can feel the chill through the leather of your gloves. You have to splice it. This requires dexterity you don't currently have. You take off your gloves, tucking them under your armpit to keep them warm. Your bare hands are exposed to the air. The wind bites them instantly. You work fast, twisting the stiff metal strands together. Your fingers turn clumsy and white. You fumble, curse. Try again. The metal cuts your skin, a thin line of red that freezes before it can bleed. Finally, the connection is made. You pull your gloves back on, your hands shaking violently. You beat them against your thighs to bring the feeling back. It hurts, a sharp, prickling pain as the blood returns. You mount up again, the saddle feeling like a block of ice. The patrol continues. By midday, the sun breaks through the clouds. It is a weak, watery sun that offers no warmth, but the light is blinding. The snow reflects it like a mirror. You squint, your eyes watering and aching. Snow blindness is a real threat out here. Men have gone blind for days, their eyes gritty and swollen shut, helpless. You pull your hat lower, peering through your eyelashes. The world is a dazzling, painful white. You spot movement on the ridge to the west, a herd of elk moving single file through the deep snow. They are dark shapes against the white, their breath steaming. They watch you pass, unconcerned. They belong here. You are the intruder. You envy their thick coats, their natural adaptation to this brutal world. You're wearing a uniform made in a factory back east, designed by men who sit in heated offices. It is inadequate. You feel the wind cutting through the seams of your coat, finding the gaps between your scarf and your collar. The afternoon drags on. The temperature drops as the sun begins its early descent. The shadows on the snow turn long and blue. The wind picks up, swirling the loose powder into miniature tornadoes that dance across the drifts. Your horse is tired. You can feel it in his stride, a stumbling heaviness. You pat his neck, murmuring encouragement. He flicks an ear back, listening to your voice. It is the only conversation you have had in hours. The sergeant signals the return. The fort is miles away, a tiny speck of civilization in the wilderness. You turn your mounts. The horse is eager now, sensing food and shelter. The ride back is a battle against exhaustion. Your body wants to slump, to sleep, but you force yourself to stay upright, to stay alert. To fall asleep in the saddle is to freeze. You think about the stories the old-timers tell, about the buffalo soldier who got separated from his unit in a blizzard. They found him 3 days later, sitting against a tree, his rifle across his knees, frozen solid. He looked like he was just resting. You shake your head, clearing the image. Focus on the rhythm of the hooves. Crunch, crunch, crunch. Focus on the sensation of the reins in your hand. Focus on the heat of the horse beneath you. As the fort comes into view, smoke rising from the chimneys, a wave of relief washes over you so strong it makes you dizzy. You ride through the gates, the sentries nodding as you pass. You slide out of the saddle, your legs giving way for a moment before you catch yourself. You lead the horse into the stable. It is warm inside, smelling of life. You unsaddle, rubbing the horse down with a handful of straw. You check his back for sores, his legs for swelling. You feed him, listening to the contented crunch of grain. Only when he is settled do you think of yourself. You walk back to the barracks. The heat from the stove hits you like a physical wall. It is stuffy, smelling of drying wool and unwashed bodies, but it is the best smell in the world. You strip off your greatcoat, hanging it near the stove. It steams as the snow melts. You take off your boots, your socks. Your feet are white and wrinkled, but not black. No frostbite today. You massage them, feeling the blood return. Dinner is beans again, and salt pork and coffee. You eat greedily, shoveling the food into your mouth. It is fuel. You need the calories to burn against the cold. The barracks is noisy now, men talking, laughing, playing cards. A game of whist is starting in the corner. Someone is cleaning a rifle, the smell of oil sharp in the air. You sit on your cot, leaning back against the wall. You're tired, bone deep, tired, but you are alive. You survived the patrol. You survived the cold. You survived the day, but the night is coming. And the night brings its own challenges. The lantern light in the barracks is dim, casting long, wavering shadows against the log walls. The wind outside has picked up, howling around the corners of the building like a pack of wolves trying to find a way in. You can hear the fine grit of snow hitting the window panes, a constant hiss, hiss, hiss. Inside, the stove glows cherry red in spots, radiating a fierce heat that battles the draught seeping up through the floorboards. You're sitting with a group of men around the stove. Private Jackson is telling a story about a haunt he saw down in the bayou back home, his voice low and rhythmic. You listen, letting the cadence of his speech lull you. It is a distraction from the itch of the wool, the ache in your joints. Another trooper, Corporal Smith, is mending a tear in his trousers with a needle and thread. His hands are large and scarred, but his movements are delicate. He wets the thread in his mouth, squinting in the dim light. "Cold out there tomorrow," Smith says, not looking up. Sergeant says another storm is brewing. "Always a storm," Jackson mutters. "This whole territory is just one long storm interrupted by wind." You nod. It feels that way. You think about the letters you have written home, letters that talk about the scenery, the duty, the pride. You don't write about the cold. You don't write about the numbness. You don't want them to worry. You don't want them to know that sometimes, out on the patrol, you think about just lying down in the snow and closing your eyes. You reach into your pocket and pull out a small worn book. It is a Bible, given to you by your mother. The leather cover is cracked. The page is thin and yellow. You open it to a random page, reading the words silently. The familiar verses are a comfort, a link to a warmer place, a gentler time. You run your thumb over the text. The paper feels fragile, like dry leaves. The bugle sounds tattoo, the signal to prepare for bed. The card games end. The mending is put away. Men begin to strip, down to their long underwear. The air in the room is cooling as the fire is banked for the night. You climb into your cot, pulling the scratchy blanket up to your chin. The straw mattress rustles. You stare up at the ceiling beams, listening to the wind. It sounds like a voice, moaning, pleading. Sleep comes slowly. You drift in and out, your dreams filled with white landscapes and endless fences of wire. You dream of heat, of the sun on your face, of hot water, of a fire that never goes out. You wake up shivering. The fire has died down. The room is freezing again. You curl into a ball, trapping your body heat. You listen to the breathing of the other men. You're all in this together, huddled against the dark. And then, a new sound cuts through the night. Not the wind, not the breathing. A sharp, distinct crack. A gunshot. The barracks explodes into motion. Men are out of their cots in seconds, grabbing carbines, pulling on boots. The door flies open, and the sergeant rushes in. "Trouble at the perimeter," he shouts. "Look alive!" You're moving before you're fully awake. You shove your feet into your boots, not bothering with socks. You grab your greatcoat, throwing it over your long underwear. You snatch your carbine and belt. The metal is freezing against your hands. You run out into the night, into the snow, into the chaos. The wind is a physical force now, blinding you with snow. You can't see more than a few feet in front of you. You hear shouting, the whinny of horses. You run toward the sound, stumbling in the drifts. Your heart hammers against your ribs. Is it raiders? Is it a false alarm? Is it a soldier who cracked under the strain and fired at a shadow? You reach the perimeter fence. A sentry is pointing out into the darkness. "There! I saw them! Shapes in the snow." You squint, trying to pierce the veil of the storm. You see nothing but swirling white. You raise your carbine, your finger resting on the trigger guard. The metal burns your skin. You wait. The cold seeps through your unbuttoned coat, freezing the sweat on your back. You stand there, a statue of ice and adrenaline, waiting for the enemy to reveal themselves. But the night keeps its secrets. The shapes do not reappear. The wind howls, mocking you. After an hour, the sergeant calls you back. It was likely nothing. A trick of the light. A deer. A hallucination brought on by the cold and the isolation. You trudge back to the barracks, your body shaking violently now from the adrenaline crash and the chill. You strip off your coat, your boots. You crawl back into your cot, but sleep is gone. You lie there, listening to the wind, wondering what is out there in the dark, wondering if next time the shapes will be real. This is the reality of the frontier. The enemy isn't always a person. Sometimes it is the land itself. Sometimes it is your own mind. And always, always, it is the cold. The morning after, the false alarm is brittle. The sun rises on a world, encased in ice. The snow has stopped, but the temperature has plummeted even further. The air sparkles with suspended ice crystals, creating sundogs, ghostly rainbows flanking the rising sun. It is breathtakingly beautiful, a scene from a fairy tale, but you know better. Beauty here is a trap. You're assigned to stable duty today. It is a reprieve from the patrol, a chance to stay relatively warm, or at least out of the wind. You walk into the stable, the smell of ammonia and hay hitting you. The horses are restless. They sense the storm has passed, but the cold remains. You grab a pitchfork, the wood handle polished smooth by countless hands. You begin to muck out the stalls. The work is heavy, repetitive. Lift, twist, throw. Lift, twist, throw. Your muscles warm up, the stiffness leaving your joints. You take off your greatcoat, working in your wool shirt. Sweat trickles down your back, a dangerous thing in this climate. If you stop moving, that sweat will freeze. You keep working, finding a rhythm. A young private, fresh from the recruitment centre in New Orleans, is working beside you. He is shivering, his movements jerky and uncoordinated. He stops to blow on his hands. Cold, he mutters. Never felt cold like this. You look at him. He's thin, his uniform hanging off him. He hasn't grown into the life yet. Keep moving, you say. Don't stop. The moment you stop, the cold gets you. He nods, grabbing his shovel. You watch him for a moment. He reminds you of yourself when you first arrived. Green, scared, unprepared for the reality of the northern plains. You wonder if he'll make it. Many don't. They get sick, they desert, or they simply give up. The frontier weeds out the weak with ruthless efficiency. You finish the stalls and move to the grain bins. You fill buckets with oats, the sound like falling rain. You carry them to the troughs. The horses crowd forward, eager. You watch them eat, listening to the crunching. It is a peaceful sound, a domestic sound. For a moment you could be back on a farm in Kentucky or Tennessee, safe and warm. But then a draft sweeps through the stable door, carrying the scent of pine and ice, and the illusion shatters. The sergeant enters, stamping his feet. "Mail call," he announces, holding up a canvas sack. The work stops instantly. Men gather around, eyes bright with hope. Mail is the only link to the outside world, to the lives they left behind. The sergeant reads out names. Johnson, Williams, Carter. He calls your name. You step forward, taking the letter. The envelope is stained and wrinkled, having travelled thousands of miles by train and stagecoach to reach you. You recognise the handwriting. It is your sister. You tuck the letter into your shirt pocket, saving it for later, for a quiet moment when you can savour it. Others are not so lucky. They turn away, shoulders slumping. No letter today. Maybe next week. Maybe never. The isolation settles back over them, heavier than before. You find a corner of the stable, sitting on a bale of hay. You open your letter. It is dated 3 months ago. Your sister writes about the harvest, about the new baby, about the church social. It is news from another planet, a world of warmth and green and community. You read it twice, hungry for the details, for the connection. You trace the words with your finger. "We pray for you," she writes. "Stay safe. Safe." You look around the stable. The horses, the pitchforks, the rough-hewn beams. Is this safe? You're surrounded by hostile territory, by weather that wants to kill you, by a government that often forgets you exist. But you have a job. You have a purpose. You're a soldier. You fold the letter carefully and put it back in your pocket. It is a talisman, a piece of home to carry against the cold. The afternoon is spent repairing tack. You sit on a bench stitching a torn bridle. The leather is thick and tough. You use an awl to punch holes, then thread the waxed cord through. It is precise work, demanding focus. Your hands cramp, but you keep going. The smell of oil and leather fills your nose. Outside, the wind is picking up again. You can hear it whistling through the eaves of the stable. Another storm? Or just the constant, restless breath of the plains? You don't know. You just keep stitching. Dinner is stew, thick, brown, full of potatoes and beef that has been boiled until it falls apart. It is hot and filling. You sit in the mess hall, surrounded by the noise of eating. Men talking with their mouths full, the clatter of tin spoons on tin plates. The air is thick with steam and the smell of food. After dinner, you go back to the barracks. You have a few hours of free time before lights out. Some men are writing letters, their tongues poking out in concentration. Others are cleaning their kit. A group is singing softly in the corner, a spiritual that rises and falls like the wind. Swing low, sweet chariot. The voices are rich and deep, harmonizing effortlessly. You close your eyes and listen. The song is a prayer, a lament, a hope. It speaks of a home beyond this world, a place of rest and freedom. It resonates in your bones. You join in, your voice blending with theirs. For a while, the cold is forgotten. The barracks is transformed into a sanctuary. You're not soldiers on a frozen frontier. Your souls lifting your voices against the dark, but the song ends. The silence returns. The wind rattles the door. You're back in Montana, back in the winter of 1877. You prepare for bed. You bank the fire in the stove. You check your gear, making sure everything is ready for tomorrow. Tomorrow is another patrol. Another ride into the white. You lie down on your cot, pulling the blanket up. You touch the letter in your pocket one last time. "Stay safe," she wrote. You close your eyes. You will try. That is all you can do. You will try to stay warm. You will try to stay alert. You will try to survive. The next morning, the sergeant has a new assignment for you. Not patrol, wood detail. The fort's supply of firewood is running low. A party is being sent out to the timberline 5 miles away to fell trees and haul them back. It sounds better than patrol. Moving, working, swinging an axe. It generates heat. But it is hard, dangerous work. The trees are frozen, the wood brittle. Axes can bounce, bite into legs instead of logs. And you are vulnerable out there, away from the fort, encumbered by heavy loads. You harness the mules to the sleds. The mules are cranky, snapping at each other. They don't want to go out either. You slap their flanks, shouting at them. Their breath steams in the air. You climb onto the sled, wrapping the reins around your gloved hands. The ride to the timberline is slow. The sled runners squeal on the hard-packed snow. The mules struggle for footing. You watch the horizon, scanning for trouble. The sky is a flat, featureless grey. It feels heavy, like it is pressing down on the earth. You reach the trees. Pine and fir, their branches heavy with snow. It is quiet here, a hushed, cathedral silence. You jump off the sled, sinking to your knees in snow. You grab your axe. The first swing jars your arms all the way to the shoulders. The tree is frozen solid. It rings like a bell when you hit it. Clang. You swing again. A chip of wood flies off, spinning into the snow. You find a rhythm. Swing, recover, swing. Your breath comes in gasps. You start to sweat. You unbutton your coat. The sound of axes fills the air. Chop, chop, chop. Trees begin to fall, crashing down with a whoosh of displaced air and snow. You trim the branches, the pine scent sharp and clean. You load the logs onto the sleds, securing them with chains. The chains are ice cold, biting through your gloves. By midday, the sleds are full. You are exhausted, your muscles burning, but you feel good. You have accomplished something. You have gathered fuel. You have secured warmth for the fort. You sit on a log to eat your lunch. Bread and cheese, frozen but edible. You look around at the other men. They are tired, dirty, covered in sawdust and snow, but they are smiling. There is a satisfaction in this work, a tangible result. Then the silence of the woods is broken, not by an axe, by a howl. It starts low, rising to a high, quavering note. A wolf, then another, and another. The pack is close. The mules panic, braying and stamping. You jump up, grabbing your carbine. You scan the tree line. Shadows move between the trunks. Grey shapes, low to the ground. "Wolves!" someone shouts. They are hungry. The winter has been hard on them too. They smell the mules. They smell you. You form a perimeter around the sleds. You check your loads. The wolves circle, emboldened by hunger. You can see their eyes, yellow and intelligent. They are testing you, looking for a weakness. A large male lunges from the brush, snapping at a mule's legs. The mule kicks out, connecting with a sickening thud. The wolf yelps and rolls away. "Fire!" the sergeant orders. A volley of shots rings out. The noise is deafening in the quiet woods. Smoke hangs in the cold air. 2 wolves fall. The rest scatter, vanishing into the trees like smoke. You stand there, heart pounding, listening. Are they gone, or are they just regrouping? "Load up," the sergeant yells. "We're moving out, now!" You scramble onto the sleds. You whip the mules into a run. The sleds lurch forward, heavy with wood. You watch your back trail, your carbine across your knees. The woods are silent again, but you feel eyes on you, watching, waiting. The ride back is tense. The sun is setting, painting the snow in shades of purple and blood red. You urge the mules on, praying you reach the fort before dark. The cold is returning, sharper now. You make it. The gates open, and you pull the sleds into the yard. You're safe. You unload the wood, stacking it by the mess hall. You have fuel. You have fire. That night, as you lie in your cot, you listen to the wind, and beneath the wind you think you hear it again. The howl, distant, mournful, hungry. A reminder that outside these walls the wild still rules. You pull the blanket over your head. You close your eyes. You sleep. Because tomorrow you have to do it all again. The days turn into weeks, the snow deepens, the routine becomes a grind. Patrol, stable duty, wood detail, guard duty. The cold is a constant, a roommate you can't evict. You learn to live with it, you learn the tricks. Put pepper in your socks to stimulate blood flow. Rub grease on your face to prevent frostbite. Don't touch metal with bare skin. You learn to read the snow. The way it drifts tells you the wind direction. The texture tells you the temperature. You learn to read the horses. Ears back means trouble. Head low means exhaustion. Shivering means hypothermia. You learn to read the men. Silence can mean focus, or it can mean despair. A joke can be a lifeline. A shared cigarette can be a bond stronger than blood. One day, a blizzard hits. A real one. A whiteout that buries the fort. You can't see the building next door. You're trapped in the barracks for 3 days. The stove burns day and night. You play cards until the decks are worn soft. You tell stories until you run out. You sleep. You eat. You wait. When the storm breaks, you have to dig your way out. The snow is drifted to the eaves. You tunnel through it, emerging into a world transformed. The landscape is sculpted into new shapes, soft curves and sharp ridges. It is alien and beautiful. You spend the day clearing paths, digging out the stables. The horses are spooked, their eyes rolling. You calm them, talking low. You feed them extra grain. That night the sky's clear. The northern lights appear, curtains of green and violet shimmering across the stars. You stand outside, wrapped in your coat, watching. It is magic. It is terrifying. It is the spirit of the north, dancing in the cold. You feel small. You feel insignificant. But you also feel alive. You're here. You're surviving. Spring comes slowly. A thaw in March, followed by another freeze. Mud season, when the ground turns to soup. The rivers swell, ice breaking up with sounds like cannon fire. The grass begins to green. The first meadowlark sings. You made it. You survived the winter. You are a buffalo soldier. You are tougher than the cold. You are tougher than the wind. You are tougher than the land itself. But the story isn't over. The summer brings heat, dust, drought. It brings rattlesnakes and scorpions. It brings long patrols under a relentless sun. It brings new enemies, new challenges. But for now, you just stand in the sun, feeling the warmth on your face. You close your eyes and breathe. The air smells of mud and new grass. It smells of hope. You wake up on a cot that smells like damp canvas and horse sweat, but this time, the air is thick with humidity, not ice. It's August now, 6 months since the long freeze. The Montana plains have traded their white shroud for a blanket of dusty sagebrush and sun-baked earth. The heat isn't just warm, it's aggressive. It presses against your skin like a heavy wool blanket you can't throw off. Flies buzz incessantly, their droning sound weaving into the low murmur of the barracks. You sit up, wiping a sheen of sweat from your forehead. Your uniform, the same heavy blue wool that saved your life in January, now feels like a punishment. The army doesn't issue summer weight. You wear what you have. You unbutton the collar of your shirt, hoping for a breeze that never comes. The air inside the barracks is stagnant, smelling of old boots and the lingering scent of last night's salt pork. The bugle sounds revel, sharp and brassy in the morning heat. You groan, swinging your legs over the side of the cot. Your boots are dusty, the leather cracking from the dry heat. You pull them on, the familiar stiffness greeting your feet. Today is patrol day. Long hours in the saddle under a sun that wants to cook you alive. You walk to the mess hall. Breakfast is coffee, black and bitter, and cornmeal mush that sits heavy in your stomach. You eat quickly, not for pleasure, but for fuel. You need the energy. You'll be riding 20 miles today, scouting for water sources that haven't dried up. Outside, the sun is already high, a blinding white disk in a pale blue sky. The parade ground is a dust bowl. Every step kicks up a small cloud of grit that coats your tongue and grinds between your teeth. You pull your hat low, shading your eyes. The glare is intense, bouncing off the parched earth. You head to the stables. The smell here is overpowering. Ammonia, manure, and the sweet cloying scent of molasses feed. The horses are lethargic, their heads hanging low, tails flicking lazily at the flies. You find your bay gelding. He looks at you with resignation. You run a hand over his flank. His coat is hot to the touch. You check his water bucket. Empty. You fill it, watching him drink greedily, the water splashing over his muzzle. Saddling up is a chore. The leather is hot, the metal buckles burning your fingers. The horse puffs out his belly, not in protest, but in exhaustion. You tighten the cinch, patting his neck. Easy boy, we'll find water. The patrol moves out, a column of blue and dust winding through the sagebrush. The heat radiates from the ground, shimmering in waves that distort the horizon. You ride in silence, conserving energy. Talking dries out your mouth. You reach for your canteen. The water inside is warm, tasting of tin and canvas, but it's wet. You take a small sip, swishing it around your mouth before swallowing. The landscape is relentless. Miles of scrub brush, dry creek beds, and bleached bones of buffalo. You see a rattlesnake coiled near a rock, its rattle buzzing a warning. Your horse sidesteps, ears pricked. You rein him in, guiding him around the danger. The snake watches you pass, tongue tasting the dusty air. By midday the heat is suffocating. Your wool uniform is soaked with sweat. Salt stains bloom under your arms and across your back. You can feel the chafing, raw and stinging. You shift in the saddle, trying to find a comfortable position. There isn't one. The sergeant signals a halt near a stand of cottonwood trees. Shade. It is a precious commodity. You dismount, your legs trembling. You lead your horse into the shadow of the trees. The air here is slightly cooler, smelling of dry leaves. You loosen the girth, letting the horse breathe. You share your water with him, pouring it into your hat. He drinks, nuzzling your hand. You sit with your back against a tree, closing your eyes. The buzz of cicadas fills the air, a rhythmic, hypnotic sound. You doze for a few minutes, a shallow, restless sleep. You dream of ice, of snowdrifts, of wind that cuts like a knife. You wake up sweating, disoriented. For a moment, you miss the winter. The cold was an enemy you could fight with fire and fur. The heat is an enemy you can only endure. The patrol resumes. You ride until late afternoon, the sun beating down on your shoulders. You find a creek, a trickle of muddy water winding through the rocks. It isn't much, but it's enough. You fill your canteens, let the horses drink. You splash water on your face, washing away the dust. It feels cool, refreshing. You turn back toward the fort. The ride home is long, the sun setting in a blaze of orange and purple. The air cools slightly, a gentle breeze stirring the sagebrush. You watch the sky, the first stars appearing. The vastness of the plains is overwhelming. You feel small, insignificant, a speck of dust in a world of giants. You reach the fort after dark. The gates open, the lanterns glowing warmly. You tend to your horse first, rubbing him down, feeding him, checking his hooves. Only then do you head to the barracks. You strip off your uniform, your skin red and chafed. You wash with a bucket of water, the soap stinging your raw skin. You put on a clean shirt, a luxury. Dinner is beans and hardtack. You eat, listening to the men talk. They talk about the heat, about the water, about the rumours of trouble with the tribes to the north. You listen, nodding. It is the same conversation every night, but it is comforting. It is connection. You lie on your cot, listening to the night sounds, the coyotes yipping in the distance, the wind rustling the dry grass, the breathing of the men around you. You're tired, but it is a good tired. You did your job. You survived the heat. You survived the day. Tomorrow will be the same. Heat, dust, thirst. But you are a buffalo soldier. You endure, you adapt, you survive. As you drift off, you think about the seasons. The brutal cold of winter, the scorching heat of summer. This land is a land of extremes. It tests you, breaks you down, rebuilds you. You are part of it now. You are forged by it. And then, a new sound. A low rumble, like distant thunder. But the sky is clear. You sit up, listening. The rumble grows louder, a rhythmic pounding that vibrates through the floorboards. "Stampede!" someone shouts. You're on your feet in an instant. You grab your boots, your carbine. You run outside. The ground is shaking. Dust clouds the air lit by the moonlight. A herd of wild horses, spooked by something, is thundering toward the fort. Hundreds of them, a river of muscle and hooves. The sentries are firing into the air, trying to turn them. You run to the fence line, waving your coat, shouting. The noise is deafening. The smell of dust and panic fills your nose. You see the led stallion, a massive black beast, eyes rolling white. He swerves at the last second, leading the herd away from the buildings. They flow past like a dark river, the sound fading into the distance. You stand there, heart pounding, watching the dust settle. The silence returns, heavy and profound. You look at the men around you, faces pale in the moonlight, eyes wide. You survived again. The frontier threw another challenge at you, and you stood your ground. You walk back to the barracks, your legs shaky. You sit on your cot, taking a deep breath. The adrenaline fades, leaving you exhausted. You lie down, pulling the blanket up. You close your eyes. Sleep comes quickly this time, deep and dreamless. You rest. You gather your strength, because the frontier never sleeps, and tomorrow the sun will rise again. You wake before the bugle, your internal clock set by months of rhythmic routine. It's autumn now, that brief golden window between the kiln of summer and the deep freeze of winter. The air inside the barracks is cool, crisp, smelling of dry pine needles and the faint, sweet scent of curing tobacco from someone's pouch. You pull the wool blanket up to your chin, savouring the warmth for just a moment longer. The light filtering through the window is a pale, washed-out blue, signalling the sun is still deciding whether to rise. Today is different. Today isn't patrol. It isn't wood detail. Today is escort duty. A wagon train of settlers, fresh from the east, green as spring grass, needs protection through the pass. They have no idea what waits for them. They see the mountains as a postcard. You see them as a gauntlet of rock slides, ambush points, and sudden storms. You swing your legs out of the cot. The floorboards are chilly, but not the biting ice of January. You pull on your socks, checking for holes. A blister on your heel is healing, the skin tender and pink. You lace your boots tight, the leather supple now, broken in by miles of walking and riding. You stand, stretching your back. A pop echoes in the quiet room. You're 24, but some mornings you feel 50. Breakfast is the usual, coffee and hardtack, but the cook has thrown in some dried apples, rehydrated in the coffee water. It's a small mercy, a burst of tart sweetness in a world of salt and starch. You drink the coffee black, letting the heat spread through your chest. You head to the stables. The air outside is sharp, smelling of sage and damp earth. The horses are frisky, sensing the change in weather. Your bay gelding nuzzles your shoulder, looking for a treat. You give him a piece of hardtack you saved. He crunches it loudly, crumbs falling from his lips. You saddle him quickly, your hands sure and steady. The wool of the uniform feels right today, neither too hot nor too cold. Just armour. The wagon train is waiting outside the gates. 6 wagons, canvas covers bleached white by the sun, wheels caked in mud. The settlers are a mix of families, men with anxious eyes, women with tight lips, children peering out from the backs of the wagons with dirty faces. They look at you, at your dark skin and blue uniform, with a mix of curiosity and fear. You're used to it. You are the Buffalo Soldier. To them you are a shield, but also a stranger. The sergeant rides up, his horse dancing sideways. "All right, men, keep your eyes open. This pass is narrow and the rocks are loose. Let's get them through before the weather turns." You take your position at the rear of the column, the drag. It's the worst spot. Dust from the wagons, the smell of the mules, the constant need to watch the back trail, but it's also the most important. If trouble comes, it often comes from behind. The train moves out with a groan of wood and a clatter of chains. The pace is slow, agonizingly slow. The oxen plod forward, heads low. The settlers walk alongside, conserving the strength of their animals. You watch the ridgeline, your eyes scanning for movement. A hawk circles overhead, screeching. A marmot whistles from a rock pile, otherwise silence. The trail winds up into the foothills. The air grows thinner, cooler. The trees change from cottonwood to aspen, their leaves turning gold and trembling in the breeze. It is beautiful, a riot of colour against the grey rock. But you don't look at the beauty. You look at the shadows. You look at the choke points. By midday you are deep in the pass. The walls of the canyon rise sheer on either side, blocking out the sun. It is cooler here, damp. The sound of the river below is a constant roar. The trail narrows, one wagon at a time. A wheel slips on loose gravel, sending a shower of stones into the gorge. A woman screams. Men rush to hold the wagon back. You sit your horse, carbine resting on your thigh, watching the rim of the canyon. This is where an ambush would happen. High ground, no escape. You see a flash of movement on the cliff edge. A deer? A man? You raise your hand, signalling the trooper ahead. He passes the signal up the line. The column halts. Silence falls, heavy and thick. You listen. Only the river and the wind. The sergeant rides back. What did you see? Movement. Up on the north rim. Could be nothing. Could be a scout. The sergeant nods. He trusts your eyes. We hold here. Send a detail up to check. You and 2 others dismount. You leave your horses with the wagons and begin the climb. It is steep, scrambling over loose shale and scrub oak. Your breath comes in gasps. Your boots slide. You use your hands, gripping roots and rock. You reach the rim, staying low. You crawl to the edge, peering through the brush. Empty. Just rock and wind and the endless sky. But you find tracks. Moccasin prints in the dust, fresh. Someone was here. Someone was watching. You scramble back down. Tracks, you report. Fresh. Maybe 2 or 3 men. The sergeant's face tightens. Scouts. That means the main party isn't far. We need to move. Get them to the high meadow before dark. The urgency ripples through the train. Drivers shout at their oxen, whips cracking. The settlers look frightened, huddled together. You remount, your senses dialed up to high alert. Every shadow looks like a warrior. Every rustle of leaves sounds like a footstep. The trail climbs higher. The air gets colder. You can see your breath again. The sun is sinking, casting the canyon into deep purple shadow. You push the pace. The wagons creak and groan, protesting the speed. A wheel rim breaks on a rock. Sparks fly. Leave it, the sergeant orders. Uncouple the team. Load what you can. We don't stop. The family in the broken wagon scrambles to grab their possessions. A trunk, a sack of flour, a rifle. They abandon the rest. A rocking chair sits forlornly on the trail, a symbol of the life they left behind. They climb onto another wagon, crowded and scared. You reach the high meadow just as the last light fades. It is a bowl of grass surrounded by peaks, defensible. You circle the wagons, creating a fortress of wood and canvas. The settlers build fires, small and shielded. You set up a perimeter guard. You will not sleep tonight. The night is cold, a preview of the winter to come. The stars are hard chips of ice. You walk your post, carbine in the crook of your arm. You listen. A coyote howls. An owl hoots. And then the sound of drums. Low, rhythmic, distant, but unmistakable. They are out there, letting you know they see you, letting you know they are waiting. The settlers hear it too. A woman starts to cry, a thin, high sound. A man hushes her. You grip your carbine tighter. The metal is cold, but your hands are sweating. Steady, the sergeant whispers, appearing out of the dark. They won't attack a fortified position at night, not unless they have numbers. Do they, you ask? We'll find out at dawn. You stand your watch. The hours drag, the drums stop, then start again, moving closer, then farther away. Psychological warfare, wearing you down, making you doubt what you see in the dark. Dawn comes grey and misty. The meadow is silent. No drums, no attacks. You scan the tree line. Nothing. Did they leave? Or are they just waiting for you to move into the open? The sergeant orders the train to move out. Keep it tight. Weapons ready. You ride out of the meadow back onto the trail. The descent begins. It is easier on the animals, but harder on the nerves. Gravity pulls the wagons down. Brakes screech and smoke. You reach the valley floor by noon. The landscape opens up. Grassland, river, space. You have made it through the pass. The settlers cheer, a ragged, relieved sound. You don't cheer. You look back at the mountains. They loom dark and silent. You know the eyes are still there, watching you go. You escort them another 10 miles to the edge of the settled territory. A town is visible in the distance, a cluster of wooden buildings and smoke. Safety. The lead settler, a bearded man with a face etched by sun and worry, rides back to you. He holds out a hand. "Thank you," he says. "We wouldn't have made it." You shake his hand. His grip is firm, calloused. "Just doing the job," you say. He nods. "A hard job, but a good one." He rides away. You watch the wagons roll toward the town. You turn your horse back toward the mountains, back toward the fort. Your job is done, but the frontier is still there, waiting. The ride back is quiet. The adrenaline fades, leaving you hollowed out. You're tired. You want a hot meal and a bed that doesn't move, but you also feel a strange sense of peace. You stood between vulnerable people and the dark. You held the line. You are a buffalo soldier. This is your life. The cold, the heat, The fear, the duty, it is a hard life, a brutal life. But in moments like this, under the vast indifferent sky, it feels like a life that matters. You wake up to the sound of rain drumming against the roof, a relentless heavy rhythm that promises mud. It's late October now, and the golden autumn has dissolved into a grey, wet prelude to winter. The barrack smells of damp wool and old coffee grounds. The air is chilly, dampness seeping into your bones in a way dry cold never does. You pull your blanket tighter for a moment, listening to the water gurgle in the gutters. Today is not patrol nor wood detail. Today is mail run escort. The stagecoach is coming through, carrying payroll, letters, and a US Marshal with a prisoner. Your squad has been assigned to meet it at the river crossing and bring it in. It's a simple enough task, but in this weather, nothing is simple. The river will be swollen, the roads slick with mud deep enough to swallow a boot. You get up, your joints stiff from the damp. You dress quickly, layering your clothes. Long underwear, flannel shirt, wool trousers, tunic. You put on your slicker, a heavy rubberized coat that smells of oil and keeps the rain out but traps your sweat in. It's a miserable garment, stiff and clammy, but better than being soaked to the skin in freezing rain. Breakfast is the usual sludge, warm but tasteless. You drink your coffee standing up, staring out the window at the grey curtain of rain. The parade ground is a quagmire. Men are trudging through ankle-deep mud, curses floating on the wet air. You head to the stables. The horses are unhappy, their heads hanging, ears flattened against the sound of the rain on the roof. Your bay gelding shifts away from you as you approach, not wanting to leave his dry stall. You saddle him, checking the cinch carefully. Leather stretches when wet. A loose saddle can mean a bad fall. You lead him out, the rain hitting you instantly, cold and stinging. You mount up, water running off the brim of your hat and down your neck. The squad forms up, a line of black slickers and bowed heads. The sergeant gives the order, and you move out, splashing through the puddles. The ride to the river crossing is slow. The horses struggle for footing in the slick mud. You keep your eyes on the road, watching for washouts. The landscape is bleak, grey hills rolling away into the mist. You can't see more than 100 yards. It's prime ambush weather. The rain hides sound, hides movement. You reach the river. It's high, a churning brown torrent tearing at the banks. The ferry is on the far side, bobbing in the current. You wait. An hour passes. The rain turns to sleet, bouncing off your slicker like tiny stones. Your hands are numb inside your wet gloves. You flex them, trying to keep the feeling. Finally you hear the crack of a whip and the rumble of wheels. The stagecoach appears out of the mist on the far bank. It's a Concorde coach, painted red, mud splattered up to the windows. The driver is hunched over, wrapped in oilskins. A man with a shotgun sits beside him. The ferry starts across, fighting the current. It's a slow, tense crossing. The river grabs at the boat, spinning it. The horses on the ferry stomp nervously. You watch, hand on your carbine, ready for anything. The ferry hits the bank with a thud. The stagecoach rolls off, water streaming from its wheels. The driver pulls up, nodding to the sergeant. "Rough crossing," he shouts over the wind. "River's rising fast." The door opens and the marshal steps out. He's a big man, face hidden by a dripping hat. He pulls a prisoner out after him, a thin, wiry man in handcuffs shivering in a thin coat. "Glad to see you, boys," the marshal says. "This one's slippery, tried to jump into the river twice." You form a protective box around the coach. You, the outriders. The journey back to the fort begins. The mud is worse now, churned up by the heavy coach. The horses labour, heads down. Suddenly a shot rings out from the ridge above. A trooper's horse goes down, screaming. "Ambush!" the sergeant roars. "Dismount! Form a line!" You slide off your horse into the mud, dragging your carbine free. You scramble for cover behind a rock outcropping. Bullets slap into the mud around you. You can't see the shooters, just flashes of muzzle fire in the mist. "Return fire!" You aim at the flashes, firing blindly. The noise is deafening, the smell of gunpowder mixing with the rain. The stagecoach driver is whipping his team, trying to get the coach to cover. The marshal is firing a Winchester from the window. You see movement on the ridge, shapes running. You fire again. One shape stumbles and falls. "They're flanking us!" someone shouts. You look to your left. More shapes coming down the ravine. You reload, your fingers slippery with rain and oil. You fire, work the lever, fire again. The rhythm takes over. Load, aim, Fire. Don't think. Just act. The attackers are getting closer. You can see their faces now, desperate men, outlaws probably after the payroll. They are shouting ragged cries of anger. Fix bayonets, the sergeant orders. You pull the long knife from your belt, locking it onto the end of your carbine. It clicks into place, a reassuring sound. If they get close enough for this, it's going to be brutal. They charge. A ragged wave of men rushing down the slope. You brace yourself, feet planted in the mud. You wait until you can see the whites of their eyes. Fire! A volley tears into them. Men drop. The charge breaks. They scramble back up the slope, dragging their wounded. Silence falls, broken only by the groans of the injured and the sound of the rain. Check the men, the sergeant calls. You look around. 2 troopers are down. One is moving, clutching his leg. The other is still. You feel a sickness in your stomach, heavy and cold. You help the wounded man, a bullet through the thigh. Clean entry, messy exit. You bind it tight with a strip of cloth torn from your shirt. He grits his teeth, face grey. "I'm fine," he gasps. "Just get me on a horse." You lift him into the saddle. The dead trooper is draped over a pack mule. You don't look at his face. You can't. Not now. The patrol reforms. The stagecoach is battered, holes in the wood, but rolling. The prisoner is pale, staring at the dead outlaws on the slope. "Let's move," the sergeant says, his voice flat, "before they come back." The ride back is a funeral, procession. The rain feels heavier now, washing the blood from the mud. You're soaked, freezing, exhausted. Your hands shake, not from cold, but from the aftermath of violence. You reach the fort at dusk. The gates open. You ride in. The wounded man is taken to the infirmary. The dead man is taken to the chapel. The payroll is safe. The prisoner is locked in the brig. You go to the barracks. You strip off your wet uniform, hanging it by the stove. You sit on your cot, shivering uncontrollably. The adrenaline is gone, leaving a hollow space inside you. Someone hands you a cup of coffee. You drink it, the heat burning your throat. You look at the empty cot next to yours. That was Jackson's cot. The man who told the ghost stories. The man who sang the spirituals. He won't be singing tonight. The reality of the frontier hits you hard. It isn't just the cold or the heat or the work. It's the suddenness of death. 1 minute you're riding in the rain, bored and miserable. The next you are fighting for your life. And the minute after that, your friend is gone. You lie down, pulling the blanket over your head. You try to sleep. But every time you close your eyes, you see the muzzle flashes in the mist. You hear the scream of the horse. You feel the recoil of the carbine against your shoulder. The rain continues to drum on the roof. It sounds like earth falling on a coffin. You wake up the next morning not to a bugle, but to the dull ache in your chest that comes with loss. The cot next to you is stripped bare. The wool blanket folded neatly at the foot. A stark grey rectangle where a man used to be. The barracks is quiet. A heavy, respectful silence that feels thicker than the air itself. Outside, the rain has turned to a wet, heavy snow, slumping off the roof in great, sighing heaps. Today is burial detail. There is no patrol, no wood chopping, just the final duty you owe to one of your own. You dress slowly. Your uniform, dried by the stove overnight, is stiff and smells of wet wool and wood smoke. You button the tunic, the brass buttons cold against your fingers. You polish your boots, not out of vanity, but out of ritual. You want to look right. You want Jackson to look right. You head to the carpenter's shed. The air is thick with the smell of sawdust and pine resin. The carpenter, an old man with hands like gnarled roots, is finishing the coffin. It is plain pine, rough-hewn, smelling of the forest. You help carry it to the chapel. It feels surprisingly light. Jackson was a big man, full of laughter and stories. It seems impossible that he fits inside this small wooden box. The chapel is cold, the stone floor radiating a chill that seeps through your boots. The chaplain, a weary man with kind eyes, stands at the altar. He reads from the book of Job. "Man that is born of a woman is of few days and full of trouble." The words hang in the air, ancient and true. You stand at attention, your gloved hands gripping your hat. You look at the other men, faces set in stone, eyes staring straight ahead. You see grief there, and anger and fear. But mostly you see resolve. This is the life. This is the cost. You carry the coffin to the cemetery, a plot of frozen ground outside the fort walls. The wind whips at the flag draped over the wood. The snow is falling harder now, filling the open grave before you even lower him down. The earth is hard as iron. The grave diggers had to use pickaxes to break through the frost. The bugler plays taps. The notes are pure and sad, drifting away into the white silence of the plains. A volley is fired, the crack of the rifles echoing off the distant hills. You flinch at the sound, remembering yesterday. Remembering the ambush. You shovel the dirt back in. The sound of frozen clods hitting the wood is the loneliest sound in the world. Thud, thud, thud. You work until the grave is filled, until there is just a mound of raw earth in the snow. You place a wooden marker at the head. Private Isaiah Jackson, 10th Cavalry, 1877. You walk back to the fort. The snow is covering your tracks, erasing the path to the grave. By tomorrow, it will be just another bump in the white landscape. That evening, the mood in the barracks is subdued. No cards, no singing. Men sit on their bunks, cleaning their weapons, writing letters. You take out your own paper and pencil. You stare at the blank page. What do you say? How do you explain the sudden violence, the arbitrary nature of death out here? You write to Jackson's mother. You tell her he was a good soldier. You tell her he was brave. You tell her he died doing his duty. You don't tell her about the mud or the fear or the way he looked when they lifted him off the horse. You give her the hero, not the corpse. It is a kindness. You seal the letter with a bit of wax from a candle. You address it to a small town in Louisiana. It will travel by stagecoach, by train, by boat. It will take weeks to get there. By the time she reads it, the snow will be deeper, the winter harder. You lie down on your cot. The empty space next to you feels like a hole in the world. You close your eyes, listening to the wind. It sounds different tonight. Not a moan, but a whisper. Jackson's voice, maybe, singing low. Swing low, sweet chariot. You sleep finally, a restless, dream-filled sleep. You dream of the bayou, of green water and moss-draped trees. You dream of warmth. You dream of home. The next morning, the routine returns. It has to. The army doesn't stop for grief. The bugle sounds. You get up, you dress, you eat, you work. But something has changed. The cold feels deeper. The horizon feels farther away. You are harder now. A little more callous on your soul. You look at the new man who takes Jackson's bunk, a fresh recruit from Philadelphia, eyes wide and nervous, and you nod. Keep your socks dry, you tell him, and keep your head down. He nods back, grateful for the advice. He doesn't know. Yet. He doesn't know about the wolves, or the ambush, or the way the frost can take a man's toes in an hour. He will learn, or he won't. You saddle your horse. The bay gelding nickers, warm breath against your cheek. You mount up. The column forms. You ride out into the snow, into the wind, into the vast, indifferent future. You're a buffalo soldier. You endure. You're sitting in the saddle, but this time the world isn't white. It's a burning, dusty brown. It is high summer, months after Jackson's burial, and the snow is a distant, almost unbelievable memory. The heat is a physical weight, pressing down on your shoulders, radiating up from the parched earth. The air shimmers, distorting the horizon into a watery mirage that promises relief but delivers only more dust. You are on long-range patrol, deep in the Badlands. The terrain is broken, a maze of canyons, buttes and dry riverbeds. It is a landscape of stark, alien beauty, painted in shades of ochre, rust and bone. But it is also a trap. There is no water here. The creeks are dry, the springs reduced to muddy puddles surrounded by the tracks of desperate animals. Your canteen is light, dangerously so. You shake it, listening to the slosh of the last few ounces. It is warm, tasting of tin and the canvas cover. You take a tiny sip, just enough to wet your cracked lips. You hold the water in your mouth, savouring it before swallowing. It does little to quench the thirst that burns in your throat. Your horse is suffering. His head hangs low, his coat dull and dusty. He stumbles occasionally, his hooves catching on rocks. You dismount to spare him, leading him by the reins. The ground is hot through the soles of your boots. Every step kicks up a puff of alkali dust that coats your throat and makes you cough. The sergeant calls a halt in the shadow of a canyon wall. It isn't much cooler, but at least the sun isn't beating directly on your head. You sit on a rock, wiping the sweat from your eyes. Your uniform is stiff with salt, the wool scratching your skin raw. Water discipline, the sergeant rasps, his voice dry as old leather. Nobody drinks unless I say so. You nod. You know the drill. You look at the other men. Their faces are masks of dust and exhaustion. eyes red-rimmed, lips chapped and bleeding. No one talks. Talking wastes moisture. You watch a lizard scuttle across a rock, its movements quick and jerky. It stops, doing push-ups, displaying its bright blue belly. It is at home here. It knows how to survive. You envy it. The scout rides in. He is an Apache, lean and hard, riding a wiry Mustang that looks like it could go forever on nothing but air. He speaks to the sergeant in low tones, pointing south. "Water," the sergeant announces. 5 miles, a spring in the next canyon. 5 miles. It sounds like 100. But it is hope. You mount up, your legs protesting. You urge your horse forward. He senses something, lifting his head slightly. Maybe he smells the water. The ride is a hallucination of heat and light. The sun hammers at your brain. You see shapes in the shimmering air, trees, lakes, cities of gold. You blink and they are gone, replaced by more rock, more dust. You reach the canyon entrance. It is narrow, the walls rising sheer and red. It looks like a wound in the earth. You ride in, the shadows swallowing you. The air is slightly cooler here. You round a bend and see it. A patch of green, willows, cottonwoods, and in the centre, a pool of water fed by a seep in the rock. It looks black in the shadow, cool and deep. The horses smell it now. They surge forward, straining at the bits. "Hold them," the sergeant shouts. "Don't let them founder." You fight your horse, holding him back. If he drinks too much too fast, he will get colic and die. You dismount, leading him to the edge. You let him take a few swallows, then pull his head up. He fights you, eyes rolling. You talk to him, soothing him. Easy, easy, plenty for everyone. You wait your turn. When it comes, you kneel by the water. You cup your hands, dipping them into the coolness. You drink. It is sweet, clean, the best thing you have ever tasted. You splash it on your face, washing away the dust and the fear. You fill your canteen, the weight of it reassuring. You water the horses slowly, carefully. Then you picket them in the grass, letting them graze. You sit under a cottonwood tree, listening to the leaves rustle. It sounds like rain. That night you camp by the spring. The air cools rapidly, the desert shedding its heat like a snake shedding its skin. You build a small fire, not for warmth, but for coffee. The smell of brewing coffee mixes with the scent of sage and damp earth. It is a good smell. You lie on your blanket, looking up at the stars. They are the same stars that look down on you in the winter, cold and distant. But tonight they seem softer, veiled by the heat rising from the land. You think about the fragility of life out here. A few miles, a few hours without water, and you are dust. But you found it. You survived. The scout sits by the fire, sharpening his knife. He looks at you and nods, a silent acknowledgement of the shared struggle. You nod back. You sleep deeply, the sound of the spring bubbling in your dreams. The next morning you ride out refreshed. The heat returns, but the desperation is gone. You have water. You have life. You patrol for another week, mapping the canyons, chasing rumours of renegades who never appear. You find old campsites, arrowheads, signs of passage. The land is empty, yet full of ghosts. You return to the fort sunburned, thinner, your uniform bleached by the sun. You are hardened, tempered by the fire of the desert. You are a buffalo soldier. But as you ride through the gates, you feel a chill in the air, a sudden drop in temperature. You look north. Dark clouds are gathering on the horizon, heavy and bruised. The wind picks up, carrying the scent of snow. Winter is coming back. The cycle continues. The heat, the cold, the wind, the land gives and the land takes. And you're just a man riding through it, trying to hold on. The chill you felt riding into the fort wasn't just a change in weather, it was a warning. It's November 1878, and the winter of 78 is already shaping up to be a killer. The old-timers say the beaver lodges are built high, the coats on the wolves are extra thick, and the migrating birds left weeks early. The signs are written in the land if you know how to read them. You're assigned to the picket line tonight. Guard duty on the perimeter. It is the loneliest job in the army. Just you, your horse, and the dark. The wind is biting, a steady gale out of the north that carries fine, sharp snow. It hisses through the dry grass like 1,000 snakes. You wrap your buffalo coat tight. It is heavy, smelling of cured hide and smoke, but it is the only thing standing between you and hypothermia. Your boots are lined with burlap sacks for insulation. Your hands are shoved deep into fur mittens attached to a cord around your neck so you can't drop them. To drop a glove out here is to lose a hand. You walk your post, back and forth, stomping your feet to keep the blood moving. The snow crunches loudly in the silence. The moon is a thin sliver, offering little light. You rely on your ears, listening for anything that doesn't belong. The snap of a twig, the snort of a horse, the soft thump of a moccasin on snow. Your mind plays tricks on you. A shadow moves. Is it a bush swaying in the wind, or a man crouching? You raise your carbine, heart hammering. You wait. The shadow stays still, just a bush. You lower the weapon, letting out a breath that fogs instantly. The cold makes you drowsy. It whispers to you, telling you to sit down, to rest your eyes for just a moment. It promises warmth, peace. You know it is a lie. If you sit, you die. The long sleep, they call it. You shake your head, slapping your cheeks to stay awake. You recite Bible verses, song lyrics, the names of everyone you ever knew, anything to keep your brain working. The Lord is my shepherd. I shall not want. Oh, Susanna, don't you cry for me. Mama, Papa, Sarah, Isaac. You think about Isaac Jackson, buried under the snow somewhere nearby. Is he cold, or is he finally warm, wrapped in the earth? A sound breaks your reverie. A horse whinnying, sharp and frightened. It comes from the corral. You turn, peering into the dark. The horses are bunching up, milling around. Something is in there with them. Wolf? Bear? Or something on two legs? You whistle, a low piercing sound, the signal for the sergeant of the guard. Then you move toward the corral, carbine ready. You see a shapevault over the fence. A man. He lands in the snow and runs. Halt! You shout. Halt or I fire! He doesn't stop. He's fast, running low. You raise your carbine, tracking him, but you hesitate. Is it a raider, or just a hungry drifter trying to steal a mount? He disappears into the darkness before you can pull the trigger. The sergeant arrives, breathless, lantern swinging. What is it? Intruder. In the corral. Spooked the horses. Ran west. The sergeant curses. Horse thieves. Probably trying to cut out the best mounts. He shines the lantern on the snow. Tracks. Moccasin prints. We'll double the guard. Keep your eyes peeled, soldier. He leaves you alone again. The silence returns, heavier than before. Now you know you aren't alone. Someone is out there, watching, waiting for a mistake. The cold feels sharper, more malevolent. It isn't just the weather anymore. It's the environment conspiring with the enemy. The rest of the night is an eternity. Every minute drags. You count your steps. 100 to the fence post. Turn. 100 back. Turn. Finally the sky begins to lighten. A grey, sullen dawn. The relief guard arrives, their faces pale and pinched with cold. Anything to report? Horse thief. Ran off. Lucky him. If he's out there without a horse in this, he's dead anyway. You walk back to the barracks. Your body is stiff, your mind numb. You enter the warmth, the smell of coffee and bacon hitting you like a physical blow. It makes you dizzy. You sit on your cot, stripping off your layers. Your fingers are clumsy, fumbling with buttons. You eat breakfast without tasting it. You drink the coffee for the heat, not the flavour. You crawl into your bed, pulling the blanket over your head. The sounds of the day, men talking, boots on wood, the bugle, fade away. You sleep. You dream of running in the snow, chasing a shadow you can never catch. When you wake, it is afternoon. The barracks is empty, most of the men on detail. You lie there for a moment, listening to the wind. It has changed pitch. It is higher, shrieking now. The door bangs open. A trooper rushes in, covered in snow. "Blizzard!" he shouts. "Everyone inside! Secure the animals!" You jump up. You look out the window. A wall of white is descending on the fort. You can't see the perimeter fence. You can't see the stables. The world has been erased. For the next 3 days, you live in a twilight world. The storm rages, burying the buildings. You venture out only in groups, tied together with ropes, to feed the horses and bring in wood. The wind knocks you down. The snow blinds you. It is a battle just to walk 10 yards. Inside, you huddle around the stove. The wood supply dwindles. You ration it. You burn furniture, old crates, anything that will catch a flame. The temperature in the barracks drops. You can see your breath. You tell stories, not the funny ones or the boastful ones. The quiet ones. Stories about home, about summers in the south, about peach trees and warm rain, about mothers cooking in outdoor kitchens. You feed on these memories, sharing them like bread. I remember the river, one man says, slow and brown, catfish jumping, the air so thick you could chew. It. I remember the church picnic, says another, fried chicken and potato salad, the ladies in their Sunday hats. I remember the heat, you say, just the heat, so hot you couldn't move. I miss it. On the fourth day, the wind dies. Silence falls. You dig your way out. The snow is drifted to the rooflines. The fort is a collection of igloos connected by trenches. You blink in the sunlight. The skies are brilliant, hard blue. The air is crystalline. It is stunningly beautiful and deadly silent. You find the horse thief, or what's left of him. He's frozen in a drift a mile from the fort. He's curled up, hands tucked under his armpits. He looks peaceful, like he is sleeping. He has no horse. He has no coat. Just a thin shirt and trousers. You and the burial detail chip a shallow grave in the frozen earth. You can't go deep. You cover him with rocks to keep the wolves away. Poor devil, the sergeant says. Never stood a chance. You walk back to the fort. You survived. Again. But the winter isn't over. It is only January. There are months left. Months of wind, of snow, of cold. You go to the stables. You brush your horse. The repetitive motion calms you. The horse is warm, alive. You lean against him. We made it, you whisper. He snorts, warm breath dusting your face. You are a buffalo soldier. You endure. You wait for spring. But spring is a long way off, and the plains have more tests for you yet. February arrives not with a thaw, but with a crushing, silent cold known as the hard freeze. The mercury drops so low that the thermometers at the fort bottom out. The river, usually a churning living thing, is silenced under 3 feet of ice. Trees explode in the forest, their sap freezing and expanding until the wood shatters with the sound of gunshots. Even the air feels fragile, like it might crack if you move too fast. You're on supply run detail. The fort is low on flour and coffee, and a wagon train is stuck 20 miles south, bogged down in drifts. Your troop has to break trail and bring them in. You prepare carefully. You wrap your feet in layers of burlap and wool, stuffing dried grass into your boots for extra insulation. You grease your face with tallow to prevent frostbite. You check your horse's shoes, making sure the caulks, sharp spikes for traction, are sharp. The ride-out is a nightmare of slow motion. The horses struggle through chest-deep drifts. You take turns breaking trail, rotating the lead horse every 15 minutes because the effort is exhausting. The lead horse plunges and lurches, sweat steaming off its flanks only to freeze instantly on its coat. You don't talk. To open your mouth is to invite the cold into your lungs. You breathe through your scarf, the wool stiff with ice from your own moisture. Your eyelashes freeze together if you blink too long. You reach the wagon train at midday. It is a pathetic sight. The wagons are buried to the axles. The oxen are dead, frozen where they stood, in the traces. The drivers are huddled in the one wagon that still has a canvas cover, burning parts of the other wagons to stay warm. They look at you with hollow eyes. They are beyond hope, beyond fear. They are just waiting to die. "Get them up," the lieutenant orders. "Put them on the spare horses. We leave the wagons." You help a man onto a horse. His hands are black with frostbite. He can't hold the reins. You tie his hands to the saddle horn. He doesn't complain. He doesn't say anything. He just stares at the horizon. You load the supplies onto pack mules. Bags of flour, crates of coffee, the essentials. Everything else is left behind. Furniture, tools, heirlooms. The snow will claim them. The return trip is a race against the sun. As the light fades, the temperature drops even further. You can feel your body shutting down. Your thoughts are sluggish. You start to feel warm, a dangerous, deceptive warmth. You want to unbutton your coat. "Don't do it," the sergeant says, riding beside you. He sees your hand moving to your buttons. That's the death heat. Keep it closed. You nod, forcing your hand back to the reins. You focus on the horse's ears. Twitch, twitch. Focus on the sound of the hooves. Crunch, crunch. You reach the fort well after dark. The sentries help you down. Your legs are useless. You fall into the snow, unable to stand. They carry you into the barracks. They strip off your boots, rub your feet with snow to warm them slowly. The pain as the feeling returns is excruciating, like being burned alive. You bite your lip until it bleeds to keep from screaming. You drink hot broth. You eat bread. You survived. But the man with the black hands didn't. He died in the saddle 5 miles back. They brought his body in tied across a mule. The next day you're confined to quarters. Recovery. You sit by the stove watching the other men. Some are missing toes. Some have ears that are black and peeling. The winter is taking pieces of you bit by bit. You think about the buffalo, the animal you're named after. The tribes say the buffalo faces into the storm, walking through it until he comes out the other side. He doesn't run. He endures. You look at your hands. The skin is cracked, calloused, dark. You are a buffalo soldier. You face the storm. Spring comes in a rush of violence. The snow melts all at once, turning the plains into a vast lake. The river bursts its banks, carrying ice floes the size of houses. The fort is an island in a sea of mud. But with the mud comes the green. The grass shoots up, impossibly bright. The wildflowers bloom. The birds return. The world wakes up. You stand on the parade ground, boots sinking in the muck, and feel the sun on your face. It is warm. Real warmth. You close your eyes and let it soak in. You made it. You survived the winter of 78, but the army has no memory. The snow is gone, so the patrols resume. The Indians are moving again, following the buffalo. The telegraph lines need repair. The settlers are pushing west again. You saddle your horse. He's shedding his winter coat, looking ragged but strong. You check your gear. You mount up. Column, forward. You ride out of the gate. The mud sucks at the horse's hooves. The sun shines, the wind blows. You are a buffalo soldier, and the west is waiting. You ride west, away from the mud of the fort and into the rolling hills that lead toward the mountains. The air smells of wet earth and sage, a heavy, rich scent that fills your lungs. The skies are deep, endless blue, dotted with puffy white clouds that cast racing shadows across the grass. It is the kind of day that makes you forget the winter, the kind of day that makes you believe the frontier is a land of promise, not just survival. You're scouting ahead of the main column, riding point. It is a position of honour and danger. You are the eyes of the regiment. If there is trouble, you will find it first, or it will find you. Your horse, a new mount named Smoke for his grey coat, steps lively, eager to be moving. He's younger than your bay, less steady but faster. You keep a light hand on the reins, letting him pick his path through the rocks and brush. You spot a herd of antelope on a ridge, their white rumps flashing as they run. They move like water, fluid and effortless. You watch them go, admiring their speed. A coyote trots through the grass, stopping to look at you before vanishing into a ravine. The land is alive. You reach a high point and rein in. You take out your field glasses, scanning the horizon. To the north, the mountains are still capped with snow, jagged white teeth biting into the sky. To the south, the plains stretch away into a haze of heat and distance. To the west, the trail winds into a labyrinth of canyons. You see smoke, a thin grey column rising straight up in the still air. It is miles away near the entrance to the canyons. Campfire, signal fire, or something burning? You signal the column behind you, then urge Smoke forward. You ride cautiously now, using the terrain for cover. You keep to the low ground, following a dry creek bed. The silence is heavy, broken only by the sound of hooves on sand. You get closer. The smell of burning wood is stronger now, and something else. Burning cloth? Burning meat? You crest a small rise and look down into a shallow valley. A wagon train, or what's left of one. 4 wagons arranged in a loose circle. They are charred skeletons, the canvas covers gone, the wood blackened. Smoke rises from the debris. You see bodies, scattered on the ground, men, women. You count 6, maybe more. You don't ride down, not yet. You wait, watching the rocks, the brush. Is the enemy still here? Is this a trap? The sergeant rides up beside you, his face grim. He looks through his glasses. Apache, he says quietly. Maybe Comanche. Hard to tell from here, but they hit hard and moved fast. How long ago, you ask? Fire's still smoking. Less than an hour. You ride down together, weapons drawn. The silence of the massacre is louder than the wind. You dismount near the lead wagon. The heat from the embers is intense. You check the bodies. No survivors. They were stripped of weapons, clothes, anything valuable, but not mutilated. That's strange. Usually there is a message left behind. This was just business. They took the horses, the sergeant says, looking at the tracks, and the mules, and looks like they took captives. You look at the ground, smaller footprints, children and drag marks. 2 kids, you say, maybe a woman? The sergeant spits. We go after them. They can't have gone far with stock and captives. The troop arrives. You water the horses quickly from the creek. You eat a handful of jerky. You don't bury the dead. There is no time. You cover them with canvas, weigh it down with rocks. You will come back for them later. You pick up the trail. It heads west into the canyons. The tracks are clear, shod horses, the stolen stock, unshod ponies, the raiders, and the drag of travois, or maybe just people being pulled. You ride hard. The sun is setting, casting long bloody shadows across the rocks. You have to close the distance before dark. If you lose the trail in the night, they are gone. You enter the canyon. The walls rise high, blocking the light. It is cooler here, quiet. The sound of the river echoes. You ride single file, eyes on the cliffs above. This is ambush country. Every rock could hide a rifleman. You see dust ahead, a cloud hanging in the air. You are close. The sergeant signals a halt. Dismount, we go in on foot, quiet. You leave the horses with a detail, you advance, carbines ready. You move like ghosts, silent in your boots. You learn this from the Apache scouts, how to walk without breaking a twig, how to blend into the shadows. You round a bend and see them, a camp in a grove of cottonwoods, fires burning, men laughing, eating. The stolen horses are picketed nearby, and the captives. 2 children, a boy and a girl, huddled near a tree, tied. A woman sits beside them, head bowed. There are 12 raiders, maybe 15. You are outnumbered, but you have surprise. The sergeant hand signals. Spread out. Surround them. On my command. You creep forward, finding a position behind a fallen log. You rest your carbine on the wood, sighting on a man standing near the fire. He is laughing, holding up a piece of jewellery. You wait. Your heart beats slow and steady. This is the moment. The calm before the violence. The sergeant fires. His shot drops a man. The canyon erupts. You fire. Your target spins and falls. You work the lever. Fire again. The raiders are scrambling for their weapons, for cover. They return fire, bullets chipping the rock around you. You see a raider running toward the captives, knife in hand. You shift your aim. You lead him slightly. You squeeze the trigger. He drops, sliding in the dirt, the knife flying from his hand. Charge, the sergeant yells. You break cover, rushing forward with a yell. The buffalo soldiers surge into the camp. It is hand-to-hand now. Clubbed rifles, knives, fists. It is chaotic, brutal, fast. You grapple with a man. He is strong, smelling of grease and sweat. He has a knife. You block his arm, slamming your rifle butt into his jaw. He goes down. Silence falls as quickly as it broke. The raiders are dead or scattered into the rocks. The captives are safe. You walk over to the woman. She looks up at you, eyes wide with shock. She sees your dark face, your blue uniform. She doesn't speak. She just reaches out and touches your sleeve, as if to make sure you are real. You're safe now, Ma'am, you say. We're taking you home. You cut her bonds. You help her stand. She picks up the children, hugging them tight. They are crying now, the shock wearing off. You gather the stolen horses. You check your men. 2 wounded, none dead. A miracle. You ride back out of the canyon under the light of the moon. The woman and children ride double with the troopers. They fall asleep, exhausted. You reach the massacre site at dawn. You bury the dead properly this time. The chaplain says a prayer. You stand in the morning light listening to the words. Earth to earth, ashes to ashes, dust to dust. You look at the woman. She's staring at the fresh graves. Her family, her life, gone. But she is alive. Her children are alive. Because of you. You ride back to the fort. The woman rides beside you for a while. Thank you, she says softly. I didn't think anyone would come. We always come, you say. It sounds like a slogan. But you mean it. You are the 10th Cavalry. You are the Buffalo Soldiers. You come when no one else will. You return to the routine, patrol, drill, stable duty. But the memory of the canyon stays with you. The sound of the shots, the look in the woman's eyes. It is a weight you carry, but it is also a badge of honor. Winter returns, the snow falls, the wind howls. You sit by the stove, warming your hands. You're older now, harder, but you're still here. You close your eyes and listen to the wind. It tells you stories of the plains, stories of cold and heat, of life and death. and you know that as long as you can hear the wind, you are still in the fight. You're sitting on a wooden crate in the supply room, surrounded by the smell of oiled canvas, dry grain, and the sharp tang of vinegar. It is late December, and the holiday season has arrived at the fort, though you wouldn't know it by looking outside. The snow is piled 5 feet high against the walls, and the temperature hasn't risen above 0 in a week. But inside there is a different kind of warmth. The men have pooled their money to buy extra rations. Sugar, dried fruit, a little whiskey. The cook is baking pies, the scent of cinnamon and nutmeg wafting through the barracks like a promise. Someone has cut a small pine tree and dragged it into the mess hall, decorating it with strips of red flannel and tin stars cut from old cans. You are polishing your brass buttons. It is a tedious job, but you want to look sharp for the Christmas dinner. The brass gleams in the lamplight, reflecting your face. You look older than you did a year ago. There are lines around your eyes from squinting into the sun and the snow, a scar on your chin from a branch that whipped you on patrol. But your eyes are clear, steady. "Hey, Corporal," a voice says. You look up. It is the young private from Philadelphia, the one who took Jackson's bunk. He's holding a small package wrapped in brown paper. "My ma sent this," he says shyly. "She said to share it." He opens the paper. It is a fruitcake, dark and dense, smelling of rum and spices, a rare luxury. "That's mighty kind of her," you say. "And you?" He smiles. She worries about the Indians, about the cold." "Tell her you're fine," you say. "Tell her you're with the Buffalo Soldiers. We don't freeze." He laughs. It is a good sound. A sound that belongs in a home, not a fort. The dinner is a feast. Roast beef, potatoes, beans, the fruitcake, and pies. The colonel gives a speech praising the regiment. You listen, but you're watching the men. They are eating, laughing, talking. For a few hours the hierarchy of rank dissolves. You are just men, far from home, sharing a meal in the dark. After dinner, the singing starts. Carols this time. Silent night. Hark the herald angels sing. The voices are rough, untutored, but full of feeling. You join in, your baritone blending with the others. The sound fills the hall, pushing back the wind outside. You think about your family back in Tennessee. Are they singing too? Are they thinking of you? You hope so. You imagine them sitting by the fire, safe and warm. It is a comforting thought. The night ends. The candles burn down. The men drift back to the barracks. You lie on your cot, full and warm. The wind is still howling, but it sounds distant tonight. Less threatening. You sleep. You dream of Christmas morning, of waking up in a real bed with soft sheets, of smelling bacon frying, of hearing your mother's voice. You wake up to the bugle. It is still dark. The dream fades, replaced by the reality of the cold barracks. But the feeling of the holiday lingers. A small spark of warmth in the winter. The routine returns. But the winter feels different now. You're halfway through. The days are getting longer, imperceptibly at first, then noticeably. The sun is a little higher in the sky. One day you see a robin, just a flash of red breast in a tree. It is early, too early, but it is a sign. Spring is coming, and with spring, change. The regiment receives orders. You are moving out, south, to Arizona. The Apache wars are heating up. Geronimo's on the move. The 10th Cavalry is needed in the desert. You pack your gear. You say goodbye to the fort, to the snow, to the mountains. You are leaving the cold behind, but you're trading it for a different kind of hell. Heat, thirst, scorpions, and an enemy who knows the land better than you ever will. The march south is long, weeks in the saddle. The landscape changes slowly. The pine trees give way to scrub oak, then to cactus. The snow disappears, replaced by dust. The air grows hot, dry. You reach Fort Huachuca in May. It is a stark collection of adobe buildings in a valley surrounded by jagged mountains. The heat hits you like a hammer. It is 100 degrees in the shade, and there is no shade. You are assigned to a new barracks. Adobe walls, thick and cool. But the air is still stifling. You miss the wood stoves of Montana. You miss the snow. The water here is warm and tastes of alkali. You drink it anyway. You have to. The patrols begin immediately. The Apache are elusive, moving like ghosts through the canyons. You track them for days, finding only cold campfires and abandoned shelters. It is a game of cat and mouse, and you're never sure which one you are. One day you find a sign, a marker made of stones. The scout reads it. Water ahead, he says, but guarded. You approach the waterhole carefully. It is a tinaja, a natural rock tank in a canyon. The water is deep and clear, but the cliffs above are perfect for an ambush. Wait, the sergeant says. Something's wrong. He points. A bird is circling, but not landing. Someone's up there. You dismount, taking cover. You wait. The sun beats down. The rocks radiate heat. Your uniform is soaked. A shot rings out. Then another. The canyon echoes. Take the high ground. You scramble up the rocks, boots slipping. You're exposed, vulnerable. Bullets whine past your head. You reach a ledge, finding cover behind a boulder. You fire back at the flashes on the opposite rim. It is a stalemate. They have the water. You have the heat. Hours pass. The sun begins to set. The thirst is a torment. Your tongue swells. Your head pounds. We have to move, the sergeant says. We can't stay here. You withdraw under cover of darkness. It is a defeat. You leave the water behind. You ride back to the fort, thirsty, defeated. The desert has won this round. But you learn. You learn to carry more water. You learn to move at night. You learn to read the signs better. You're a buffalo soldier. You adapt. The summer drags on. The heat is relentless. Men collapse from heat stroke. Horses die. But you keep going. You chase the shadows in the canyons. And then a breakthrough. The scouts find a main camp, hidden deep in the mountains. The regiment moves out in force. This time it will be a battle, not a skirmish. You ride at night, the moon guiding you. The air is cool, a relief. You reach the mountains at dawn. The attack is swift. You charge up the slopes, shouting. The Apache are surprised, but they fight back fierce. Arrows fly. Bullets sing. It is chaos. Dust. Smoke. Noise. You lose track of time. You just fight. And then it is over. The camp is taken. The warriors have fled or surrendered. You stand in the wreckage, breathing hard. You are alive. You won. But the cost is high. Men are dead. Horses are dead. And the war isn't over. It never really is. You look at the mountains. They are beautiful, rugged, unforgiving. This is your home now. The desert, the heat, the fight. You mount up. The column forms. You ride back to the fort. You're a buffalo soldier, and you are just getting started. You're lying on a flat rock, the surface radiating the heat absorbed during the day. It is night in the Arizona desert, and the temperature has finally dropped, though the air still holds a lingering warmth, like an oven door left slightly ajar. Above you, the sky's a sprawling tapestry of stars, brighter and more numerous than you ever saw back east. The Milky Way is a distinct smear of light, a celestial river mirroring the dry washes below. You are on extended patrol miles from the fort. The unit has made a dry camp, no fires to give away your position. You chew on a piece of hardtack, softening it with a sip of tepid water. The silence is profound, a heavy blanket that smothers sound. Occasionally a horse shifts its weight or blows out a breath, a soft whoosh in the darkness. Your body aches. The ride today was brutal, traversing rocky canyons where the heat bounced off the walls and cooked you in your saddle. Your uniform is stiff with dried sweat and dust chafing at your neck and wrists. You run a hand over your face, feeling the grit embedded in your skin. Water is for drinking, not washing. You think about water constantly. It is an obsession here. You dream of cool streams, of rain, of ice. You remember the frozen river in Montana and laugh silently. You would give a month's pay for a chunk of that ice right now. The sergeant crawls over to you, moving silently. Your watch, Corporal. You nod, sitting up. Your joints pop. You pick up your carbine, the metal cool now. You move to the perimeter, finding a spot behind a cluster of mesquite bushes. You settle in, watching the dark. The desert at night is a different world. It comes alive. You hear the scuttle of insects, the hoot of an owl, the yip of a coyote pack hunting in the distance. You scan the horizon, looking for movement that doesn't belong, a silhouette against the stars, a flicker of motion. You are hunting ghosts. The Apache move like smoke, disappearing into the terrain. They can be right next to you, and you wouldn't know it until it was too late. You respect them. They are warriors born of this land, shaped by it. You're an intruder, fighting the land as much as the enemy. Hours pass. Your eyes strain in the darkness. You fight the urge to doze. To sleep is to fail. To fail is to die. A sound. A soft clink of stone on stone. You freeze. Your heart hammers against your ribs. You raise your carbine slowly, sighting toward the sound. You wait. Nothing. Just the wind sighing. Through the cactus. Was it a deer? A rock settling? Or a scout testing your alertness? You don't relax. You stay tense. Ready. The adrenaline keeps you awake. Dawn arrives slowly. A lightening of the eastern sky that reveals the jagged outlines of the mountains. The stars fade. The air chills for a brief moment before the sun climbs over the horizon and the heat returns. The camp wakes. Men stretch, groan, check their weapons. There is no coffee this morning. No fire. Just cold beans and water. You saddle up. Your horse is gaunt, ribs showing through his dusty coat. The forage is poor here, dry grass that offers little nutrition. You share your hardtack with him, breaking it into pieces. He eats it gratefully. "Let's move," the lieutenant orders. The patrol continues. You ride deeper into the mountains, following a faint trail. The rocks are sharp, cutting the horse's hooves. You dismount often to lead them, saving their strength. You find water at noon, a muddy pool at the base of a cliff. It is fouled by animals, but you drink it anyway. You fill the canteens, straining the water through a cloth to catch the bugs. It tastes of earth and stagnation. The trail leads up into the high country. The air cools slightly. You pass through stands of pine, the scent sharp and clean. It reminds you of Montana, but different. Drier, more brittle. You find signs, a broken arrow, a pile of stones marking a trail, a cold campfire, the ashes scattered. They are ahead of you. The tracking is slow, meticulous. The Apache scout reads the ground like a book. A bent twig, a turned stone, a single horsehair caught on a thorn. He points, murmuring in his own language. 2 days ahead, he says in English, moving fast. You push on. The horses are tired, stumbling. You push them anyway. You have to catch them. That night, you camp in a high valley. It is cold here, surprisingly so. You wrap yourself in your blanket, shivering. The desert is a land of extremes. Burn all day, freeze all night. You look at the moon, full and bright. It illuminates the valley, turning the rocks into silver statues. It is beautiful and lonely. You think about your life, the years of service, the miles ridden, the friends lost. What is it for? For the country, for the pay, for the pride? Maybe all of it. Maybe none of it. Maybe it is just because you don't know anything else. You are a soldier. This is what you do. You sleep fitfully, dreaming of water. The next day brings contact. You're riding through a narrow defile when shots ring out from the cliffs above. Ambush! You dive for cover. Bullets smack into the rock around you. The horses scream. You return fire, aiming at the muzzle flashes. The echoes are deafening. Flank them, the sergeant yells. Left! Take the high ground! You scramble up the slope, slipping on loose shale. Your breath tears at your throat. You reach a ledge, firing down into the enemy positions. They retreat, fading into the rocks. It was a skirmish, a delaying action. But it cost you. 2 men wounded, 1 horse dead. You tend to the wounded. You distribute the load from the dead horse. You move on. The pursuit lasts another week. A grueling test of endurance. You run out of food. You eat mule meat, tough and stringy. You run low on water. You suck on pebbles to keep your mouth moist. And then it ends. Not with a battle, but with silence. The trail peters out. They have vanished. Scattered into the wilderness. You turn back. The return journey is a slow defeat. You're tired, hungry, thirsty, but you are alive. You reach the fort. The gates open. You ride in, heads high. You didn't catch them, but you didn't quit. You unsaddle your horse. You walk to the barracks. You sit on your cot. You're a buffalo soldier. You chase ghosts in the desert. Sometimes you catch them, sometimes you don't. But you always ride. You close your eyes. The heat, the dust, the cold, the fear, it all fades. Just for a moment. You sleep. And tomorrow you will ride again. You're standing in the middle of a river, the water swirling around your waist, cold and brown. It is late spring, 1879. The rainy season has come to the southwest, turning dry washes into raging torrents. The heat is broken by violent thunderstorms that roll in every afternoon, turning the sky black and filling the air with the smell of ozone and wet dust. You are on a detail to repair a bridge washed out by a flash flood. It is heavy, miserable work. You're soaked to the skin, your uniform heavy with water. Your boots are full of silt. The current tugs at your legs, trying to knock you off balance. You heave a timber into place, grunting with effort. The wood is slick, hard to grip. Another trooper helps you, his face streaked with mud. "Heave!" the sergeant bellows from the bank. You push. The timber slides into position. You hammer a spike into it, the metal ringing dull in the humid air. The rain starts again, a sudden deluge. It pounds your back, cold and relentless. You can't see the far bank. You keep working. The bridge is a lifeline. Without it, the supply wagons can't get through, and without supplies, the fort starves. You work until your hands are raw, your muscles trembling. The river rises inches higher every hour. You are racing the water. Finally it is done. Rough, ugly, but solid. The sergeant waves you in. You wade to the bank, dragging your feet through the mud. You're shivering uncontrollably now. The combination of water and wind saps your heat faster than snow. You huddle under a canvas fly, drinking hot coffee. It tastes of river water and grit, but it is hot. You wrap your hands around the tin cup, feeling the warmth seep into your skin. The rain stops as quickly as it started. The sun breaks through, hot and humid. Steam rises from the ground, from your clothes. The air is heavy, suffocating. Mosquitoes swarm, a cloud of whining misery. They bite your neck, your hands, your face. You slap at them, leaving streaks of blood on your skin. You ride back to the fort. The mud is deep, slowing the horses. You're tired, wet, bitten, but the bridge stands. The wagons will roll. That night in the barracks, you clean your gear. Your carbine is spotted with rust. You oil it carefully, rubbing the metal until it gleams. Your boots are drying by the stove, stiff and misshapen. You lie on your cot, listening to the rain start again. It drums on the roof, a steady rhythm. You think about the river, about the power of water in a land of thirst. It gives life, and it takes it. You drift off. You dream of swimming in cool, clear water, swimming home. The next morning brings a different challenge. Sickness, the damp, the mosquitoes, the bad water. It takes a toll. Men are down with fever, shaking with chills, delirious. The infirmary is full. You're healthy for now. But you watch your friends succumb. The cough that won't go away. The sweat-soaked sheets. The hollow eyes. You're assigned to help the doctor. You carry water, change linens, hold men down while the surgeon works. The smell of sickness is heavy. Sweat, vomit, decay. It clings to your clothes. You see a man die. A young private, barely 20. He grips your hand, his skin burning hot. He whispers a name, over and over. Sarah, Sarah. Then he stops. His hand goes limp. You close his eyes. You cover his face. You walk out of the infirmary into the blinding sun. Life goes on. The bugle sounds. Patrols go out. Wood is chopped. Horses are fed. You are a buffalo soldier. You carry the dead, and you carry on. Weeks pass. The sickness fades. The heat returns, drying the mud to dust. The routine settles back in. But then, a new order. You're moving again. Not a patrol. A transfer. The regiment is being split. Your troop is heading to Texas, to the Staked Plains. You pack your kit. You say goodbye to the adobe walls, to the mountains, to the graves in the cemetery. You're leaving another piece of your life behind. The march to Texas is long. Miles of nothing. Flat, endless plains covered in tall grass that waves in the wind like an ocean. The sky is huge, overwhelming. You feel exposed, like an ant on a table. You reach your new post, Fort Concho. It is a stone fort, sturdy and grim. The wind blows constantly here, carrying dust from the Llano. The enemy is different here too. Comanches, the lords of the plains. They're expert horsemen, fierce and proud. They fight differently than the Apache. They charge in the open, screaming, a wall of horses and lances. Your first patrol is a shock. You're riding through tall grass when the ground erupts. Warriors rise from the earth, their horses hidden in ravines. Arrows fly in a dark cloud. Form square! You dismount, your horses in the centre. You kneel in the grass, carbine ready. The charge hits. The sound is terrifying. Shouts, hoofbeats, gunfire. You fire, reload, fire. Smoke obscures your vision. You see a warrior riding straight at you, painting on his face, lance lowered. You aim for the horse. The animal goes down, throwing the rider. The fight is short, intense. They break off, circling away, taunting you. They are testing you. You mount up, your hands shaking, you check your ammo, you check your friends. Welcome to Texas. The months blur, patrols, skirmishes, long rides under the sun. You learn the water holes, you learn the grass, you learn the wind. One night you're camped by a river, the Pecos. The water is salty, bitter, you drink it anyway. You sit by the fire, listening to a guitar. A trooper is playing, singing a corrido he learned from a Mexican vaquero. The song is sad, about love and loss and dying far from home. You look at the fire, the flames dance, yellow and orange. You think about your journey, from the snows of Montana to the canyons of Arizona to the plains of Texas. You have seen it all. The cold, the heat, the rain, the dust. You're tired. Your body is a map of scars and aches, but your spirit is intact. You are still here. You are a buffalo soldier. You have ridden the whirlwind, and you are still in the saddle. You close your eyes. The song fades, the fire crackles, the wind blows. You sleep. And tomorrow the sun will rise on a new day, a new challenge, a new horizon. You're standing at the edge of a buffalo wallow, a depression in the earth where the great beasts used to roll in the dust. Now it is filled with rainwater, muddy and shallow. It is your only water source for 20 miles. You are in the heart of the Llano Estacado, the staked plains of Texas, a place so flat and featureless that early Spanish explorers drove stakes into the ground just to find their way back. The year is 1880. The heat is a physical presence, a hammer that strikes you every time you step out of the shade of your hat. The sun is white hot, bleaching the colour from the grass and the sky. The wind is relentless, a dry, hot blast that sucks the moisture from your skin. You fill your canteen. The water is warm and gritty, tasting of clay. You drink it anyway. You splash some on your neck, the relief fleeting as it evaporates instantly. Your troop is tracking a band of Comanche raiders. They have been elusive, moving fast, using the vastness of the plains to disappear. You have been in the saddle for days, sleeping in short bursts, eating hardtack and dried beef while riding. Your horse is suffering. His head hangs low, his breathing laboured. You dismount often, walking beside him to spare his strength. Your boots are worn thin, the soles cracking. The grass cuts your trousers, leaving small scratches on your legs. The sergeant rides up. He looks like a statue made of dust and leather. "We're close," he rasps. "Found a campsite, ashes still warm." You mount up, forcing your tired body into the saddle. The anticipation sharpens your senses. You scan the horizon. Nothing but grass and sky. But somewhere out there, they are waiting. You spot a cloud of dust. Riders. Moving fast. There! The chase is on. You spur your horse, urging him into a gallop. The fatigue falls away, replaced by adrenaline. The wind roars in your ears, the ground blurs beneath you. The Comanches see you. They turn, spreading out into a skirmish line. They are magnificent horsemen, riding low on their mounts, firing from beneath the necks of their ponies. You return fire, your carbine bucking against your shoulder. The noise is swallowed by the vastness of the plain. A trooper goes down, his horse tumbling. You don't stop. You can't. The Comanches wheel, firing arrows. One thuds into your saddle, inches from your leg. You ignore it. You focus on the man in front of you. He is young, painted for war. He raises a lance. You fire. He jerks back, sliding off his horse. The fight is a whirlwind of dust and confusion. Horses screaming, men shouting, the crack of rifles. And then it breaks. The Comanches scatter, disappearing into the grass like smoke. You rein in your horse, chest heaving. Silence returns, sudden and absolute. The dust settles. You check your men. 3 wounded, 1 dead. The cost of doing business. You make camp on the open plain. No shelter, no fire. You eat cold rations, watching the sun go down. It sets in a blaze of the red, turning the grass to fire. Night brings a different kind of danger. The cold. The temperature drops 50 degrees. You wrap yourself in your blanket, shivering. The wind cuts through the wool. You huddle with the other men, sharing warmth. You look up at the stars. They are the same stars you saw in Montana, in Arizona. But here they seem closer, brighter. You feel exposed, vulnerable. There is nowhere to hide on the Llano. You think about the Comanches. They're fighting for their home, for their way of life. You're fighting for... what? For a paycheck? For respect? For a country that doesn't always love you back? It is a hard question. You don't have an answer. You just have the cold, and the dark, and the duty. You sleep fitfully. You dream of the buffalo, herds so large they shake the earth. You dream of the grass, endless and green. You wake before dawn. The grass is stiff with frost. You shake out your blanket, crystals of ice flying into the air. You saddle your horse, his breath steaming. The patrol continues. You ride toward the sunrise. The light hits your face, warm and golden. For a moment, the world is beautiful. You are a buffalo soldier. You ride the edge of the world, and you wouldn't be anywhere else. Weeks pass. The seasons turn. The heat breaks, replaced by the cool winds of autumn. The grass turns brown, rustling dryly. You receive a letter from home. Your sister is getting married. She sends a small piece of ribbon from her dress. You touch the silk, soft and smooth. It feels alien in your rough hands. You put it away, safe in your pocket, a reminder of a softer world. Winter comes to Texas, not the deep. Snows of Montana, but ice storms that coat the world in glass. The blue northers, sudden storms that drop the temperature in minutes. You're caught in one on patrol. The sky turns black. The wind screams. Rain turns to sleet, then to snow. It freezes on your coat, your horse, your face. You ride blindly, head down, trusting your horse. You find shelter in a ravine, huddling under a tarp. You build a small fire, feeding it with twisted grass and mesquite roots. You drink hot coffee, the steam warming your face. You tell stories about the time you fought the Apache in the canyon, about the blizzard in Montana, about the heat in Arizona. You are building a history, a legend. The storm passes, the sun comes out glittering on the ice. The world is a diamond. You ride back to the fort, you are alive, you are together. And then the orders come, mustered out. Your enlistment is up. You stand in the commander's office holding your discharge papers. You feel strange, light, untethered. You pack your gear, you say goodbye to your horse, patting his neck one last time. You say goodbye to your friends, the men you bled with, froze with, starved with. You walk out the gate. You are a civilian now, a free man. You look back at the fort. The flag snaps in the wind. The bugle sounds retreat. You turn and walk away. The road stretches out before you. The future is unknown, but you are ready. You are a buffalo soldier. You have survived the fire and the ice. You can survive anything. You walk toward the town, toward the train station. You're going home, but part of you will always be here, on the plains, in the wind, in the silence. You're sitting on a wooden bench at the train station, your bag at your feet. The station is small, just a platform and a ticket office, but to you it looks like a palace. The rails stretch away into the distance, gleaming steel ribbons leading back to civilization. You're wearing civilian clothes, a simple suit, a new hat. They feel strange, light and flimsy compared to your uniform. You feel naked without your carbine, without the weight of the belt around your waist. The train arrives, a black iron monster belching smoke and steam. The ground shakes as it pulls in. You board, finding a seat near the window. The car is crowded, noisy. People talk, laugh, argue. It is a cacophony after the silence of the plains. The train lurches forward. You watch the landscape slide by. The fort disappears, then the town. The plains open up, vast and empty. You see a herd of cattle, a lone rider. Is he a soldier, a cowboy, an outlaw? You don't know. You're just a passenger now. You travel for days. The land changes. The grass gives way to trees, to farms, to towns. You see fences, roads, bridges. The world is becoming tame. You reach St. Louis. It is a city of noise and confusion. Carriages rattle on cobblestones. People shout. The air smells of coal smoke and horse manure, but it is different from the fort. It is the smell of industry, of commerce. You find a boarding house, a real bed with sheets, a bath with hot water. You soak for an hour, scrubbing away the dust of the frontier. You look in the mirror. The face staring back is older, harder, but the eyes are the same. You get a job, not as a soldier, but as a labourer, loading crates on the docks. It is hard work, but you are used to hard work. Your muscles remember the rhythm. Lift, twist, throw. You meet people. You tell them you are a soldier. Some look at you with respect, others with indifference, a few with hostility. You're still a black man in America. The uniform didn't change that, but you carry something inside you, a pride, a strength. You survived the frozen plains, you survived the burning desert, you survived the bullets and the arrows. You can survive this. Years pass, you marry, you have children, you tell them stories. Not the bloody ones, not the terrifying ones. The stories about the land, about the sunrise over the mountains, about the horses, about the brotherhood. "What was it like, Papa?" your son asks. "Being a buffalo soldier?" You look at him. How do you explain the cold that freezes your breath, the heat that boils your blood, the fear, the boredom, the beauty? It was hard, you say, but it was something. One night you wake up. The house is quiet. Your wife is sleeping beside you. You go to the window. It is snowing. Big, soft flakes falling silently. You watch the snow. You remember Montana, the white world, the wind. You remember Jackson. You remember the wolf. You feel a phantom ache in your hands, the memory of frostbite. You rub them together. You are safe. You are warm. You are home. But part of you is still out there, riding patrol, watching the horizon, listening to the wind. You are a buffalo soldier. Always. You are dreaming. In the dream, you're back in the saddle, but the horse isn't your sturdy bay gelding. It's a pale horse, translucent as morning mist, and its hooves make no sound on the frozen earth. The landscape is familiar yet altered. The Montana plains stretch out, not white with snow, but grey with ash. The sky is a swirling vortex of charcoal clouds, heavy with a storm that never breaks. You're riding point, leading a column of men whose faces are shadowed, indistinct. You turn to look at them, and you see Jackson, alive and whole, riding beside you. He smiles, a flash of white teeth in the gloom. "Cold night for a ride, Corporal," he says, his voice clear and resonant, untouched by the grave. "Where are we going?" you ask, your voice sounding thin and far away. "West," he says, pointing toward the mountains. "Always west, to the edge of the world." You look ahead. The mountains are growing larger, their peaks' jagged teeth biting into the sky. But they aren't made of rock. They are made of ice, immense glaciers grinding down the world. You feel a chill that goes deeper than bone, a cold that touches your soul. You wake with a start, your heart pounding against your ribs. You're in your bed in St. Louis. The room is dark, quiet. Your wife breathes steadily beside you, a warm, comforting presence. You touch her shoulder lightly, grounding yourself in the present. The dream fades, but the feeling remains, a sense of unfinished business, of a journey that never really ended. You get up and go to the kitchen. You pour a glass of water, drinking it slowly. The water is cool and clean, nothing like the muddy sludge of the Pecos or the melted snow of the northern forts. You sit at the table, staring out the window at the city street. Gas lamps cast pools of yellow light on the wet pavement. It is raining, a soft, steady drizzle. You think about the men you left behind, not just the dead, but the living, the ones who stayed in the army, who re-upped for another tour. Are they still out there, still riding patrol, still freezing in the winter and baking in the summer? You wonder if they think of you, the one who got out, the one who found a life away from the frontier. The next day, you go to work on the docks. The Mississippi River is swollen with spring rain, churning brown and angry. You watch the steamboats manoeuvring, their paddle wheels churning the water. They are massive, powerful machines, symbols of a changing world. You are loading crates of machinery bound for the west. Ploughs, reapers, steam engines, tools to tame the land you fought to secure. You think about the irony. You cleared the way for the farmers, the ranchers, the towns. You made it safe for them. But there is no place for you out there anymore. The frontier is closing. The wild places are being fenced in. A man works beside you, a young Irish immigrant named O'Malley. He is strong, cheerful, full of talk about the new life he's building. "Going to save up," he says, heaving a crate onto a wagon. "Buy me a farm in Kansas, grow wheat, be my own man." You nod. "Kansas is good land," you say, "flat, good soil." "You been there?" he asks. "Passed through," you say. "A long time ago." You don't tell him about the dust storms. You don't tell him about the locusts. You don't tell him about the loneliness. Let him have his dream. That evening, you walk past a recruitment poster for the army. It shows a dashing cavalryman on a sleek horse, charging gallantly into battle. The uniform is crisp, the sky is blue. It looks nothing like the reality you knew. You stop and stare at it. A young boy is looking at it too, eyes wide with wonder. "I'm going to be a soldier," the boy says to no one in particular. "Ride a horse, fight Indians." You look at the boy. He's thin, his clothes patched. He looks hungry, just like you were at his age. "It's not like the picture, son," you say gently. The boy looks up at you, surprised. "How do you know?" "I was there," you say. "It's cold, it's dirty, and you're always hungry." The boy frowns, then looks back at the poster. "But you get a horse?" he says. "And a gun." "Yeah," you say. "You get a horse and a gun." You walk away. You can't save him. The lure of the West, of adventure, is too strong. It calls to the desperate, the restless, the brave. It called to you. You go home. Your wife is cooking dinner. The smell of fried catfish and collard greens fills the house. It is a good smell, a smell of home. You sit down at the table. Your children rush in, full of energy and noise. They climb on your lap, asking about your day. You hold them close, feeling their warmth. This is what you fought for. This is what you survived for. But late at night, when the house is quiet, you still listen. You listen for the wind. You listen for the bugle. You listen for the ghosts of the 10th Cavalry, riding forever on the edge of the world. And sometimes, just for a moment, you wish you were with them. The years roll on, marking time not in seasons of snow or drought, but in the steady rhythm of city life. The children grow taller, their voices deepening, their games changing from tag to baseball. Your back aches a little more each morning, a reminder of the miles you rode, the loads you carried. Your hands, once calloused from reins and rifle stocks, are now rough from crates and ropes. One evening you're sitting on the porch watching the sunset. The sky is a bruised purple, the light fading over the rooftops of St. Louis. A man walks up the street, moving slowly with a slight limp. He stops at your gate, leaning on a cane. You squint, trying to place him. He's old, his hair white, his face a map of wrinkles. But there is something familiar in the set of his shoulders, the way he holds his head. "Corporal?" the man asks, his voice raspy. You stand up, your heart skipping a beat. "Sergeant." It is Sergeant Washington, the man who led you through the blizzards of Montana, the heat of Arizona, the battles of Texas. He is smaller now, diminished by age, but his eyes are the same, sharp, watchful. "I heard you were here," he says. "Thought I'd look you up." You invite him in. Your wife brings coffee and pie. You sit at the table, two old soldiers in a quiet house. "How long has it been?" you ask. 20 years, he says, give or take. He tells you about the regiment after you left, about the last campaigns against the Apache, about the border skirmishes, about the long, slow decline of the frontier army as the wars ended and the West was settled. "It's different now," he says. "Fences everywhere. Towns where there used to be nothing but buffalo. The army, it's changing too. More drill, less fighting." "Do you miss it?" you ask. He looks into his coffee cup. "I miss the men," he says. "I miss the horses. I don't miss the cold or the dying." He tells you about the others, who made it, who didn't. Smith died of pneumonia in Dakota. Williams took a bullet in a saloon fight in El Paso, the young private from Philadelphia. He stayed in, made sergeant, retired to a farm in Nebraska. "And you?" you ask. "Where did you end up?" "Soldier's home," he says. "Washington, D.C. It's nice enough. Warm. 3 meals a day. But it's quiet." You talk late into the night. You relive the patrols, the storms, the battles. You laugh about the bad food, the stubborn mules, the officers who couldn't read a map. You mourn the dead. When he leaves, you walk him to the gate. The street is dark, the gas lamps flickering. "Good to see you, Corporal," he says, shaking your hand. His grip is weak, but his palm is warm. "Good to see you, Sergeant." You watch him walk away, a shadow disappearing into the night. You feel a sudden, sharp pang of loneliness, a longing for a time when life was simple, brutal, and shared. You go back inside. The house is warm, silent. You look at your hands. They are old hands now, but they remember. They remember the feel of a carbine, the texture of a horse's mane, the bite of the cold. You are a buffalo soldier. You are a survivor, and you are not alone. There are others out there, scattered across the country, carrying the same memories, the same scars. You are part of a brotherhood that time cannot erase. You sleep well that night. No dreams of ice or fire, just a quiet, restful darkness. The next morning you wake up early. The sun is shining. The birds are singing. You drink your coffee, black and strong. You put on your work boots. You kiss your wife goodbye. You walk to the docks. The river is flowing, wide and muddy, carrying the commerce of a nation. You join the crew, lifting, carrying, working. The rhythm takes over. Lift, twist, throw. You are part of the city now, part of the future. But your heart is still on the plains, riding the wind forever. This is the legacy of the Buffalo Soldiers. Not just the battles won or lost, not just the territory secured, but the resilience, the endurance, the ability to face the harshest conditions, the deepest fears, and keep going. To build a life out of nothing but grit and determination. It is a legacy written in snow and dust, in blood and sweat. It is a legacy carried in the hearts of men like you, men who walked through the fire and came out the other side, and as long as the wind blows across the plains, as long as the snow falls on the mountains, that legacy will endure. A whisper in the grass, a shadow on the rock, a memory of blue coats and dark faces riding into history. You are standing on the deck of a ferry crossing the Mississippi, the water churning brown and sluggish below. It is 1898. Newsboys on the levee are shouting about war in Cuba. "Remember the Maine," they cry, waving broadsheets ink-stained with headlines of sunken ships and Spanish treachery. The country is mobilizing again, stirring from its peace like a bear waking from hibernation. You're too old for this war. Your knees crack when you climb stairs, and your vision blurs in low light. But the army is calling for volunteers, for experienced men to train the new recruits, and the 10th Cavalry, your regiment, is going. You feel a pull, a magnetic tug toward the uniform. It isn't patriotism exactly, it is loyalty. Loyalty to the name, to the history, to the men who will wear the blue wool in the tropical heat. You enlist as a teamster, a packer. You know mules. You know how to load a wagon so it doesn't tip on a mountain trail. You know how to keep animals alive when there is no feed and no water. The army needs that. You travel to Florida, the staging ground. It is chaos. Thousands of men, tons of supplies, all crammed into a mosquito-infested swamp. The heat is different here. Wet, heavy, smelling of rot and salt. It reminds you of the river bottoms in the south, but worse. You find the 10th. They look different. Younger. Their uniforms are cleaner, their weapons newer, but the faces are the same. Dark, determined, watchful. You see the sergeants barking orders, the corporals checking gear. It is a familiar dance. You work the docks in Tampa, loading ships. Canned beef that smells suspicious even through the tin. Wool uniforms for a jungle war. Crates of rifles. It is the same old army, unprepared, disorganized, relying on the strength of its men to overcome the failures of its planners. You meet a young trooper, Private Johnson. He's eager, full of talk about glory and freeing the Cubans. He reminds you of the boy from Philadelphia years ago. You think it'll be a hard fight, he asks, helping you strap a crate of ammunition. War is always hard, son, you say. Doesn't matter where it is. It's heat and dirt and waiting and dying. He nods, sobering. But we're ready. The 10th is the best. Yeah, you say. We are. The ships sail. You're left behind. Your job is done. You stand on the pier, watching the transports disappear into the haze. You feel a pang of regret. You want to be with them, to share the hardship, to watch their backs. But you are an old soldier now. Your war is memory. You return to St. Louis. You read the papers every day. You follow the maps. Las Guasimas, El Caney, San Juan Hill. You read about the Rough Riders, about Teddy Roosevelt. But you look for the other names. The 10th, the 9th, the 24th, the 25th, the Buffalo Soldiers. You read about how they saved the day, how they charged up the hill when others faltered, how they cut the barbed wire, how they sang as they fought. Smoked Yankees, the Spanish call them, a mark of respect. You feel a fierce pride. They are your sons, your brothers. They are carrying the legacy forward. The war ends quickly. The men come home. Some of them come through St. Louis. You go to the station to meet them. They are thin, yellow with malaria, their uniforms ragged, but they walk with a swagger. You find Private Johnson. He's on a stretcher, missing a leg. He sees you and smiles, a weak, tired smile. "We did it, Pops," he whispers. "We took the hill." You grip his hand. "I know, son, I know." You help him onto the hospital wagon. You watch him go. You think about the cost, always the cost. Life settles back down. The century turns. 1900. A new era. Cars appear on the streets, startling the horses. Electric lights replace gas. The world is speeding up, leaving the frontier behind. You are an old man now, a relic. People look at you and see a labourer, a grandfather. They don't see the soldier. They don't see the snows of Montana or the dust of Texas, but you see it every time you close your eyes. One winter, a blizzard hits St. Louis. It is a bad one. Snow piles up in the streets, stopping the trams. The city shuts down. You sit by the window, watching the snow fall. It is quiet, peaceful. You remember a night in the mountains. You were separated from your unit, lost in a storm. Your horse had gone lame. You were walking, stumbling, freezing. You thought it was the end. You sat down under a tree ready to sleep, and then you felt it. A warmth, a presence. You looked up and saw a buffalo, a massive bull standing in the snow watching you. His breath steamed in the air. His eyes were dark and ancient. He didn't move. He just stood there, blocking the wind. You crawled toward him. You pressed yourself against his flank. His fur was thick, matted with ice, but underneath he was warm, a living mountain. You stayed there all night, huddled against the beast. He never moved. He shielded you. He kept you alive. In the morning the storm broke. The buffalo shook himself, a cloud of snow flying. He looked at you one last time, then turned and walked away, disappearing into the white. You never told anyone. Who would believe it? But you know, the snow falls outside your window in St. Louis. You touch the glass. It is cold. Thank you, you whisper, to the buffalo, to the horse, to the men, to the land itself. You close your eyes. You're tired. It is time to rest. The darkness comes, gentle this time. Not the terrifying dark of the frontier night, but a soft, welcoming shadow. You drift into it, floating. You see them again. The regiment. Riding in column 2 by 2, the flags snapping, the horses prancing. They are young, strong, beautiful. They are waiting for you. You mount up. Your bay gelding is there, saddled and ready. You swing into the saddle. You take your place in the line. The sergeant raises his hand. Forward ho! You ride, into the light, into the history, into the forever. You are a buffalo soldier, and your patrol is done. The wind has died down in your mind, the memory of the buffalo soldiers fading into the quiet dignity of history. But the night is long, and there are other stories of survival waiting in the dark. Stories not of cold plains, but of suffocating heat, of swamps that breathe, and of a freedom that had to be stolen inch by inch. You blink, and the scene shifts. The dry, biting cold of Montana is replaced by air so thick and wet you can taste it. It smells of decaying vegetation, brackish water, and the sharp, green scent of cypress needles. The ground beneath your feet is not frozen earth, but soft, yielding mud that threatens to swallow your shoes with every step. Congratulations, you've just woken up in the year 1855. The good news? You have escaped. The bad news? You're in the Great Dismal Swamp, a vast watery wilderness straddling the border of Virginia and North Carolina. And the sun is setting. You're standing on a small hummock of relatively dry land, surrounded by black water that reflects the twisting branches of cypress and gum trees. The trees are massive, their roots knobby and strange, rising from the water like knees. Spanish moss drapes from the limbs, grey and ghostly in the fading light. The heat is oppressive. Even now, as evening approaches, the air is heavy and still. Sweat trickles down your back, soaking your rough cotton shirt. Mosquitoes whine in your ears, a constant irritating chorus. You slap at one on your neck, your hand coming away smeared with blood. They are relentless, clouds of them rising from the stagnant pools. You're a maroon, a runaway, someone who refused the yoke of slavery and chose instead the brutal freedom of the swamp. You're not just hiding here, you're living here. You're part of a secret community that has carved a life out of the mud and the water, a community the outside world whispers about in fear and disbelief. Your first priority is shelter. The swamp is not kind to those who sleep in the open. The damp seeps into your bones, bringing fever and the age. Snakes, cottonmouths and rattlers hunt in the cool of the night. Bears and panthers prowl the shadows. You move deeper into the swamp, following a path known only to those who live here. It is a corduroy road, logs laid side by side in the mud to create a stable footing. It is hidden beneath the water in places, invisible unless you know where to step. You feel for the logs with your bare feet, moving slowly, carefully. One misstep could send you plunging into deep muck or onto a submerged spike of cypress. You reach the settlement. It is built on an island in the heart of the swamp, a piece of high ground shielded by dense thickets of briar and cane. The houses are simple structures, built from cypress logs and palmetto fronds. They are raised on stilts to keep them above the floodwaters and the snakes. The smell here is different. It smells of wood smoke, of roasting fish, of drying tobacco. It smells of people. You see figures moving in the twilight, men carving tools, women weaving baskets, children playing quiet games in the dirt. They nod to you as you pass, a silent greeting. You are safe here, for now. You climb the ladder to your cabin. Inside it is small and dim. A fire burns in a clay-lined pit in the centre of the floor, the smoke drifting up through a hole in the roof. The fire is essential. It cooks your food, dries your clothes, and keeps the insects at bay. The smoke is thick, stinging your eyes, but you welcome it. It is better than the mosquitoes. You sit on a mat woven from reeds. Your dinner is cooking in a pot over the fire, a stew of fish, turtle, and wild greens. You caught the fish earlier in a trap made of woven vines. You gathered the greens from the edge of the island. The swamp provides, if you know how to ask. You eat slowly, savouring the food. It is simple fare, but it is yours. You caught it. You cooked it. No master gave it to you. No overseer watched you eat it. After dinner, you tend to your tools. You're making shingles. Cypress wood splits easily into thin, durable planks. These shingles are your currency. You will smuggle them out of the swamp to free black boatmen on the canals who will sell them in the cities. In return, they will bring you supplies you can't make. Powder, lead, salt, cloth. It is a dangerous trade, but necessary. You work by the light of the fire, your knife slicing through the wood with a rhythmic shick. The wood smells sharp and clean. You stack the finished shingles in the corner. A day's work, a day's freedom. The night sounds of the swamp begin. The bellow of an alligator, deep and guttural, vibrating in your chest. The scream of a bobcat. The chorus of frogs. A wall of sound that rises and falls. To an outsider, these sounds are terrifying. To you, they are a lullaby. They mean the swamp is awake. They mean the swamp is watching. You lie down on your mat. You don't have a feather bed or wool blankets. You have furs, raccoon, deer, bear, tanned and sewn together. They are warm and soft. You pull them up, covering your head to keep the mosquitoes away. You listen to the night. You listen for the sounds that don't belong. The splash of a paddle, the bark of a dog, the voice of a slave catcher. They come sometimes, with dogs and guns and chains. They try to navigate the maze of water and trees, but the swamp fights them. The mud sucks at their boots. The briars tear their clothes. The snakes bite. And the maroons fight back. You have traps set on the approaches to the island. Pits filled with sharp stakes, deadfalls, false paths that lead into quicksand. You know the terrain. They don't. This is your kingdom. You drift towards sleep. You think about the world outside the swamp. The plantations, the fields, the auction blocks. You think about the people you left behind. Do they know you are free? Do they whisper your name in the quarters? You hope so. You hope your freedom gives them strength. You dream of the water. Dark, still water that hides you, protects you, holds you. You dream of the cypress trees standing guard like sentinels. You dream of a life where you don't have to hide. But for now, the swamp is enough. You wake before dawn. The mist is heavy, clinging to the trees like wet cotton. The air is cool, almost cold. The swamp has a chill in the morning that seeps into your joints. You stoke the fire, adding a piece of fatwood, resin-soaked pine that burns hot and bright. You make coffee. Not real coffee, but a brew made from roasted acorns and chicory. It is bitter and dark, but it wakes you up. You drink it from a gourd cup, warming your hands. Today is foraging day. You need to find food. The swamp is a garden, but a wild one. You have to know what to look for. You take your musket, an old flintlock kept clean and oiled, and your gathering bag. You leave the island, stepping onto the corduroy road. The water is still, black as ink. A heron takes flight, its wings silent. You move quietly, eyes scanning the trees and the water. You find a patch of tuckahoe, a root vegetable that grows in the mud. It is starchy and filling. You dig it up with a stick, washing the mud off in the water. You find wild grapes, small and tart. You find a beehive in a hollow tree, marking it to come back later with smoke. You see a deer, a small doe, drinking at the edge of a pool. You raise your musket. You hesitate. A shot will echo for miles. It might attract attention. Is it worth the risk? You decide against it. You lower the gun. The doe looks at you, ears twitching, then bounds away. You will eat fish today. Fish is quiet. You check your traps. A catfish, slick and heavy. A snapping turtle hissing in the net. Good eating. Turtle soup is rich and fatty. You return to the settlement. The sun is up now, burning off the mist. The heat returns, humid and sticky. The cicadas start their buzzing. You spend the afternoon working in the communal garden. Yes, you have a garden. A cleared patch of high ground where you grow corn, beans and sweet potatoes. The soil is rich, dark muck that grows anything you plant. You weed the rows, sweat dripping from your nose. This garden is a miracle. Corn growing in the middle of a swamp. It is defiance in vegetable form. Every ear of corn is a victory. You talk with the other Maroons, a man named Moses, who escaped from a rice plantation in Carolina, a woman named Sarah, who fled with her baby, an old man named Cudjoe, who was born in Africa and remembers the old ways. Cudjoe tells stories while you work, stories about the trickster spider Anansi, stories about the spirits of the water, stories about flying back to Africa. The water brings us here, he says, his voice raspy, and the water will take us home. You listen, nodding. The stories are food too, food for the soul. That evening a boat arrives, a dugout canoe poling silently through the channels. It is a contact, a free black man who works on the canal boats. He brings supplies. The mood in the settlement shifts. Excitement, tension, news from the outside. He unloads the canoe, a sack of salt, a bolt of calico cloth, a keg of powder, a newspaper. You gather around. Someone who can read, a young woman who is a house servant, takes the paper. She reads aloud by the firelight. News of politics, news of laws, news of runaways caught. $50 reward, she reads. For a Negro man named Gabriel, scar on his left cheek. You touch your own face. You have scars too. Not on your cheek, but on your back. The boatman brings other news. Slave catchers in the area, he says quietly. They found a camp down near the Pasquotank River. Burned it. A silence falls. The fire crackles. Did they catch anyone? Moses asks. 2 men, the boatman says. The rest got away. 2 men, dragged back to chains. Or worse. We need to strengthen the defences, Cudjoe says. Sharpen the stakes. Watch the water. You nod. The peace of the swamp is an illusion. You are always at war. You take the first watch that night. You sit in a tree stand high above the water, overlooking the main channel. You have a conch shell to blow if you see anything. The moon rises, painting the swamp in silver and black. It is ghostly, beautiful. You watch the water. Every ripple, every splash could be danger. You think about the boatman's news, about the men caught. You feel a cold knot in your stomach. Fear, but also anger. You will not go back. You will die in this swamp before you let them put chains on you again. You touch the musket across your knees. You are free, and you will stay free. The night passes, no boats come, no dogs bark. The swamp protects you. Morning comes, you climb down from the tree. Your legs are stiff, you are tired, but you are safe. You walk to the fire. Sarah hands you a bowl of cornmeal mush. It is hot and sweet with wild honey. All quiet, she asks. All quiet, you say. She smiles. Good. You eat. You watch the sun come up through the trees. The light turns the Spanish moss to gold. You're a maroon. You live in the mud and the water. You fight the heat and the bugs and the men with guns. But you are free. And that is everything. You're standing at the edge of a vast cane field, the stalks rising 10 feet into the air like a green wall. It is high noon on a sugar plantation in Louisiana, 1845. The sun is a white-hot disk, bleaching the colour from the sky. The heat is a physical force, pressing down on your shoulders, making the air shimmer and dance. Congratulations, you've just woken up to the sound of the overseer's bell. The good news? You're alive. The bad news? It is cutting season, the grinding time, and the work never stops. The first thing you notice is the smell. It is sweet, cloying, almost sickening. The scent of boiling cane juice hangs over the entire plantation, a thick molasses fog that coats your throat and sticks to your skin. Mingled with it is the smell of wood smoke from the sugar house chimneys, the pungent odour of mule sweat, and the sharp tang of fear. You're holding a cane knife, a heavy machete-like blade with a hooked end. The handle is slick with your own sweat. Your hands are calloused, stained brown from the cane juice. Your back aches with a dull, throbbing pain that never really goes away. "Move it," the overseer shouts from his horse. He cracks a whip in the air, the sound like a pistol shot. You step into the cane. The leaves are sharp, serrated like saw blades. They cut your arms and face as you push through. The stalks are thick, hard as bamboo. You swing the knife. Thwack. You cut low, near the ground. Thwack. You strip the leaves. Thwack. You top the cane. It is a rhythm. Swing, strip, top. Swing, strip, top. You do it until your arm is numb, until your mind goes blank. You're a machine, fueled by cornmeal and adrenaline. The cane field is a dangerous place. The knives are sharp and exhausted people make mistakes. A slip of the hand can take off a finger, a toe, a hand. You hear a shout, a cry of pain from down the row. Someone has cut themselves. You don't look. You can't stop. If the mill stops, everyone suffers. The cut cane is piled into wagons, hauled by mules to the sugar house. You follow the wagons, walking in the dust. The sugar house is a hellscape of noise and heat. Massive rollers crush the cane, squeezing out the juice. Furnaces roar, boiling the juice in great copper kettles. Slaves work the kettles, skimming the foam, moving the syrup from one pot to the next. The heat inside the sugar house is infernal. It is 120 degrees near the kettles. Men work naked to the waist, their skin gleaming with sweat and syrup. They are covered in burns from splashing liquid. The air is thick with steam. It is hard to breathe. You're assigned to feed the rollers. You lift the heavy stalks, feeding them into the crushing metal jaws. It is terrifying work. If your sleeve gets caught, if your hand slips, the rollers don't stop. There is an axe hanging by the rollers, ready to chop off a trapped limb to save the man's life. You look at the axe. The blade is dull. You work for 18 hours. During grinding season, the mill runs day and night. You sleep in shifts, snatching a few hours on a pile of bagasse, the crushed cane stalks. The bagasse is damp, sweet-smelling, and full of insects. You lie down, your body vibrating from the noise of the machinery. You close your eyes, but the roar of the fire is still in your ears. You dream of snow. You have never seen snow, but you dream of it. Cold, white, silent. A place where the fire can't reach you. You wake up to a shake on your shoulder. "Time," a voice says. You get up. You drink a cup of hot water with a little molasses in it. You go back to the rollers. The night shift is eerie. The sugar house is lit by torches and the glow of the furnaces. Shadows dance on the walls, monstrous and distorted. The men look like demons in the flickering light. You work in a trance. Lift, feed, lift, feed. A man collapses near the kettles, heat stroke or exhaustion. They drag him out into the cooler air. Another man takes his place. The work continues. You think about running. The swamp is close. You can smell it on the wind sometimes, cool and rotting. But where would you go? The patrols are everywhere. The dogs. And you have family here. A mother in the quarters. A sister. You can't leave them. So you stay. You feed the machine. Morning comes, grey and smoky. The whistle blows. Shift change. You stumble out of the sugar house, blinking in the light. The air outside feels cool, even though it is already hot. You walk back to the quarters, rows of wooden cabins, whitewashed in uniform. Inside, it is dark. You have a bunk, a blanket. You collapse onto it. You're too tired to eat. Your mother is there. She has saved you a piece of cornbread. She wipes your face with a wet rag. Her hands are rough, but her touch is gentle. "Rest now, child," she whispers. You close your eyes. You listen to the sounds of the quarters. A baby crying. A woman singing a low, mournful song. The sound of a banjo plinking softly. Life goes on, even in hell. Sunday comes, the one day of rest. The mill stops. The silence is shocking. You go to the praise house, a clearing in the woods where you hold church. It is secret. The master doesn't like you gathering, but you do it anyway. The preacher is a field hand, a man with a back scarred by the whip. He reads from the Bible, stumbling over the words. He talks about Moses, about the Red Sea, about the Promised Land. "One day," he says, "one day we're going to cross over." You sing, "Go down, Moses." Steal away. The songs are codes, maps, warnings, hope. After church, you have a few hours to yourself. You tend your small garden patch behind the cabin. Collard greens, okra, peppers. This food is yours. It tastes better than the rations. You visit with friends. You trade news. Who was sold, who ran, who died. You meet a man from a neighbouring plantation. He brings word of the north, of a place called Canada, of a railroad that runs underground. They say there's snow there, he whispers, and freedom. You listen. You store the information away, like a seed. Maybe one day. But for now, the bell rings. Sunday's over. The grind begins again. You walk back to your cabin. You sharpen your cane knife. The metal gleams in the firelight. You look at your hands. They are strong. They have cut 1,000,000 stalks of cane. They have fed the machine that makes the master rich. But they are your hands. And one day they might cut something else. They might cut the chains. You sleep. You dream of the North Star, high and bright and cold. Weeks turn into months. The grinding season ends. The cane is cut. The sugar is made. Barrels of it, loaded onto steamboats on the river. The work changes. Now it is planting time, or ditch digging, or levee repair. There is always work, but the pace slows. You have a little more time, a little more breath. You start to plan. You talk to the man from the other plantation. You learn the signs. A quilt hung on a line with a specific pattern. A song sung at a specific time. A lantern in a window. You start to save food. Dried corn, jerky. You hide it in a hollow log in the woods. You wait for the right time. A dark night. A storm. A distraction. And then it happens. A fire in the big house. Chaos. People running, shouting. The overseer's distracted. You look at your mother. She nods. Go, she mouths. You grab your bag. You slip into the shadows. You run toward the swamp. The mud sucks at your feet. The briars tear your clothes. You don't stop. You run until your lungs burn. You run until you hit the water. You wade in. The water is cold. It hides your scent from the dogs. You follow the North Star. You're a maroon now, a runaway, a fugitive, but you are free. The swamp holds you. The darkness protects you. You are part of the hidden world. You keep moving. North, always north, towards the snow, towards the freedom. You're crouching in a thicket of saw palmetto, the fronds sharp enough to draw blood if you move too quickly. It is night, but the moon is full, casting a silver light that filters through the canopy of the Florida wetlands. The air is thick with humidity, smelling of rotting vegetation, damp earth, and the faint, briny scent of the nearby Gulf. Congratulations, you've just woken up in the year 1817. The good news, you're a black Seminole, a warrior of 2 bloods and 1 fierce spirit. The bad news, General Andrew Jackson is marching south with an army, and he intends to burn your home to the ground. You're wearing a hunting shirt of soft deerskin, dyed a dark red to blend with the shadows. A turban of colourful calico cloth is wrapped around your head, adorned with a single egret feather. In your hands you hold a British-made musket, the wood stock polished smooth by years of use. It is heavy, solid, reassuring. You're listening. The swamp is never silent, but you know the difference between the natural sounds and the intruders. The splash of a gator sliding into the water is rhythmic, heavy. The snap of a twig under a soldier's boot is sharp, careless. You hear it. A murmur of voices, the clink of metal on metal, a horse blowing out a breath. They are close. You signal to the man beside you. John Horse, a leader among your people. He nods, his eyes dark and intense. You melt back into the shadows, moving silently through the underbrush. You reach the village. It is a cluster of chickees, open-sided structures with thatched roofs raised on stilts above the marsh. The cooking fires are banked low, glowing embers in the centre of the earthen floors. Women are gathering children, moving them toward the canoes hidden in the reeds. There is no panic, only a grim, practised efficiency. You have been running for a long time. Your ancestors ran from the plantations in Georgia and the Carolinas, finding refuge here among the Seminole Indians. You intermarried, learned their ways, fought their wars. You built a life here, a life of freedom, crops of corn and pumpkins, herds of cattle, families. But the Americans want the land, and they want you back in chains. They call it the Negro Fort incident, when they blew up your stronghold on the Apalachicola River, killing hundreds. You survived that. You will survive this. They're coming. you whisper to your wife. She's packing a basket with dried meat and corn. She hands you a pouch of ammunition. Be careful, she says. Go to the hammock, you tell her. Deep in the swamp, we'll hold them here. She touches your face, then turns and leads the children into the dark. You take your position behind a fallen cypress log. Other warriors join you, Seminole and Black fighting side by side. You check your priming powder. It is dry. Good. The first soldiers appear at the edge of the clearing. Blue coats, tall shakos. They look out of place here, clumsy and loud. They form a line, bayonets gleaming in the moonlight. Fire, their officer shouts. A volley of musketry rips through the leaves above your head. You don't flinch. You wait. You let them come closer, into the mud, into the trap. When they are 30 yards away, John Horse gives the signal. A high, warbling cry like a screech owl. You stand up and fire. Your musket kicks against your shoulder. A soldier drops. The man next to you fires. Another soldier falls. The blue line wavers. They can't see you. They are firing at shadows. You reload, biting the cartridge, pouring the powder, ramming the ball. It is a rhythm of life and death. The soldiers charge. They splash through the shallow water, shouting. You draw your knife. It is close work now. Brutal. You fight in the mud. You use the terrain. You lure them into the deep water, where their heavy packs drag them down. You disappear into the cane brakes and reappear behind them. You are the swamp. You are the night. The battle rages for hours. The moon sets, plunging the swamp into total darkness. The soldiers retreat, confused and bloodied. They pull back to higher ground, leaving their dead in the water. You gather your men. You're tired, bruised, bleeding from a dozen scratches, but you held. The village is empty, but the people are safe. You slip away into the deep swamp, following the secret paths. You move toward the hammock, an island of hardwood trees rising out of the marsh. It is a fortress nature built for you. You find your family there. They are huddled under a shelter of palmetto fronds. Your wife hands you water. It tastes of tannins and life. They're gone? She asks. For now, you say, but they'll be back. You look at your children. They are sleeping, exhausted. You stroke your son's hair. He will be a warrior too. He will have to be. The next day, you scout the soldiers' camp. They are building a road, cutting down the trees, draining the water. They are trying to tame the swamp. They are trying to erase you. You realize this war will not end soon. It will go on for years, decades. A war of attrition, a war of ghosts. You adapt. You learn to live on the move. You plant crops in hidden clearings, harvesting them before the soldiers find them. You hunt alligator and manatee. You trade with Cuban fishermen on the coast, swapping hides for gunpowder. You become a legend. The Americans call you Maroon. Seminole Negro, renegade. They put a price on your head, but they can't catch you. One night you're sitting by a fire in a deep hidden glade. An old Seminole chief, Osceola, sits across from you. He is young, fiery, charismatic. They want us to move, he says, to the west, to a place called Oklahoma. Dry land, no water. We won't go, you say. This is our home. He nods. We will fight, until the last man, and you do. The Second Seminole War begins. It is the longest, bloodiest Indian war in American history, and you are at the heart of it. You ambush supply trains, you attack forts, you disappear into the Everglades, a vast river of grass where the soldiers cannot follow. You fight not just for land, but for your very existence. If you surrender, you go back to slavery. That is not an option. Years pass, you grow older, your hair turns grey, your scars multiply, but your spirit remains unbroken. Eventually the war ends, not with a victory, but with a stalemate. The Americans give up trying to conquer the swamp. They leave you alone, mostly. You live out your days in the Everglades. You build a new village on a hammock surrounded by water. You raise your grandchildren. You tell them the stories. We never surrendered, you tell them. We are the unconquered. One evening you stand at the edge of the water watching the sunset. The sky is a blaze of orange and pink reflected in the dark mirror of the swamp. A heron flies overhead, its silhouette stark against the light. You breathe in the humid air. It smells of home. You are a black Seminole. You are free, and you are still here. You are standing on the edge of a rooftop, the city of New York spread out below you like a glittering, dangerous jewel. It is a humid July night in 1863. The air is thick with smoke, not from industry but from arson. The smell is acrid, burning wood, tar, and the coppery tang of fear. Congratulations, you've just woken up in the middle of the New York City draft riots. The good news? You're free. The bad news? A mob of thousands is hunting black men in the streets, blaming you for a war they don't want to fight. You're wearing a simple linen shirt damp with sweat and wool trousers that have seen better days. Your boots are sturdy, good for running. You have a heavy iron bar in your hand, a tool you scavenged from a construction site. It is cold and reassuring. Below you, the streets are a cauldron of noise. Shouts, breaking glass, the clatter of horses' hooves. You see torches moving like angry fireflies. They are burning the coloured orphan asylum. You watched from a distance as the children were led out the back, terrified but safe. Moments before the building was engulfed. You're a longshoreman. You work the docks, loading and unloading the ships that feed the city. You're strong, used, to hard labour. But this is a different kind of strength. This is survival. You need to get to your family. They are hiding in a cellar in Weeksville, a free black community in Brooklyn. It is miles away. You have to cross the city, cross the river without being seen. You move across the rooftops, jumping the narrow gaps between tenements. The slate tiles are slick with dew. One slip and you fall 4 stories. You don't look down. You focus on the next roof, the next chimney. You reach the end of the block, a wide avenue below. It is filled with rioters, men in rough clothes carrying clubs and torches. They are chanting a low, ugly sound. Down with the draft, down with the rich, down with the... You block out the rest. You have to go down. There is no other way. You find a fire escape, the iron rusting and loose. You climb down slowly, testing each step. The metal groans. You freeze. Did they hear? A bottle smashes against the wall next to you. Glass sprays your face. You look down. A man is pointing up at you. There's one. Get him. You drop the last 10 feet, landing hard on the cobblestones. You roll, coming up with the iron bar raised. 3 men rush you. They smell of whiskey and rage. You swing the bar. It connects with a shoulder. A sickening crunch. The man howls. You spin, dodging a club. You kick the second man in the knee. He goes down. You run. You sprint down an alley, knocking over trash cans to slow them down. You hear footsteps behind you, heavy and fast. You turn a corner, then another. You dive into a narrow passage between 2 buildings, squeezing into the shadows. You hold your breath. The footsteps thunder past. They missed you. You wait until your heart slows. You wipe the blood from your cheek where the glass cut you. You move on, staying in the shadows. You reach the East River. The ferries aren't running. The mobs have attacked the docks. You have to find a boat. You creep along the piers. The water is black, oily, reflecting the fires burning in the city. You find a small skiff tied to a piling. It has no oars. You find a piece of driftwood. It will have to do. You untie the skiff and push off. The current grabs you instantly, pulling you toward the harbour. You paddle frantically, fighting the river. The driftwood is clumsy, heavy. Your arms burn. You're halfway across when you hear a shout from the Manhattan side. A group of men on the pier. They have seen you. A shot rings out, splashing the water near the boat. You paddle harder. You're a shadow on the water. A target. Another shot. Closer. You duck low in the boat, paddling with one hand. You pray to the river. Carry me. Hide me. You reach the Brooklyn shore. You drag the skiff onto the mud. You scramble up the bank into the tall grass. You're safe, for now. Weeksville is quiet, tense. Men stand guard with shotguns. They know you. They let you pass. You reach the cellar. You knock the secret knock. The door opens. Your wife is there. Your children. They are safe. You hug them. You smell the fear on them mixed with the damp earth of the cellar. Is it bad? Your wife asks. It's hell, you say. But we're here. You sit in the dark, listening to the distant sounds of the city burning across the water. You hold your iron bar. You wait. The riots last for 4 days. The rain finally comes, dousing the fires and cooling the rage. The army arrives, marching down the avenues with bayonets fixed. Order is restored, but the city is changed. The trust is broken. You look at your neighbours differently now. You know what lies beneath the surface. You go back to work on the docks. You load the ships. You build the city. But you never forget the rooftops. You never forget the river. You are a survivor. You navigated the storm of hate and came out the other side. Years later, you walk past the site of the asylum. It has been rebuilt, bigger, stronger. You stop and look at it. You think about the children, you think about the fire, you touch the scar on your cheek. It is a map of the night you ran for your life. You turn and walk away. The city bustles around you, loud and indifferent. But you know its secrets, you know its bones. You're sitting on a rough-hewn bench in a praise house, hidden deep within the woods of a Georgia plantation. It is late, well past midnight, but the small structure is packed. The air is thick, humid, and charged with an energy that makes the hair on your arm stand up. It smells of pine sap from the walls, of sweat, and of the oil lamps flickering in the corners. The only light comes from those lamps and a small fire burning outside. The shadows are long, dancing on the faces of the people around you, men with backs bent from the cotton fields, women with hands rough from scrubbing, children with eyes wide and solemn. They are singing, but it is not like the singing in the Master's church. This is the shout, a rhythmic circular dance that builds in intensity. The feet shuffle on the wooden floor, a soft thump, 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 thump that mimics the heartbeat. Hands clap, not in applause but in time. The voices are low, guttural, rising in a harmony that vibrates in your chest. Steal away, steal away, steal away to Jesus. You know this song. It is not just a hymn, it is a code. Steal away means a meeting is planned, or an escape. Jesus is the north. The green trees are the safe houses. You're a conductor on the Underground Railroad. You have come back south to guide a group to freedom. It is the most dangerous thing you can do. If you are caught, you will hang. No trial, no jury, just a rope and a tree. You watch the faces in the circle. You're looking for the ones who are ready, the ones with the fire in their eyes, the ones who are tired of waiting for the Jubilee. You see a young man, strong shoulders, a scar on his forehead. He is watching you. You nod, imperceptibly. He nods back. You see a woman, holding a baby. She looks exhausted, but her jaw is set. She is ready. The shout builds. The rhythm gets faster. People are sweating, swaying, lost in the music. It is a release, a way to pour out the pain and the hope. The floorboards tremble. You slip out the back door. The night air is cool, a relief. You wait by the big oak tree, the signal tree. The young man comes out, then the woman, then two others, a small group. Good. Easier to move, easier to hide. We leave in an hour, you whisper. Pack light, food, water, no extra clothes, and quiet. Absolute quiet. They nod. They disappear into the darkness to gather their things. You check your own gear, a compass, a knife, a small pistol, loaded, a bag of dried corn and jerky. You look up at the sky. The North Star is there, hanging low over the tree line. The drinking gourd. It is your map, your guide, your God. You wait. The hour passes. They return, shadows moving in the shadows. Ready, you ask? Ready, they whisper. You move out. You leave the plantation behind, slipping past the overseer's house, past the kennels where the dogs sleep. You move into the woods, following the creek bed to hide your scent. The journey begins. You walk all night. The woods are dense, tangled with vines and briars. You move slowly, carefully. You listen for the snap of a twig, the hoot of an owl that sounds wrong. You reach a swamp at dawn. You have to cross it. The water is cold, black. You wade in, holding your packs over your heads. The mud sucks at your feet. You see a snake glide past, a ripple in the water. You freeze. It moves on. You reach a small island in the swamp. A station, a safe place. A free black man lives here, a fisherman. He meets you at the edge of the water. Welcome, he says. Rest. Eat. He gives you fried fish and cornbread. You eat ravenously. You sleep in his cabin, huddled together on the floor. It is warm, dry. You wake at dusk. You move again, night after night. You follow the star. You follow the moss on the north side of the trees. You follow the river. You are hunted. You hear the dogs baying in the distance, a terrifying sound, a primal sound. Into the water, you order. You wade into a stream, walking upstream for a mile to break the scent trail. The water is freezing. Your legs go numb. The baby starts to cry. The mother muffles him with her shawl, her eyes wide with panic. Hush, you whisper. Hush now. The dogs lose the scent. The baying fades. You climb out of the water, shivering. You keep moving. You reach a town, a dangerous place, patrols, curfew. You have to move through it. You have a contact, a Quaker family. You find their house, A white clapboard house with green shutters, a lantern burns in the window. The signal, you knock. 3 times, pause, 2 times. The door opens. A woman in a grey dress stands there. She smiles. "Come in, friends," she says. "Thee is safe here." You enter. The warmth of the house hits you. The smell of baking, bread. The sight of a clean floor. She leads you to a hidden room. A false wall in the pantry swings open. Inside, a small space with blankets and food. "Rest," she says. "We will move thee tomorrow night. In the wagon." You sleep. For the first time in weeks, you sleep deeply. The next night, you are loaded into a wagon, hidden under a false bottom covered with sacks of flour. It is dark, cramped, dusty. You can't move. You can't speak. The wagon rumbles over the cobblestones. You hear voices outside, the driver talking to someone, a guard, a patrol. "What you got in there, Quaker?" a gruff voice asks. "Flour for the market," the driver says calmly. "Would thee like to check?" A pause. Your heart stops. "Nah, go on." The wagon moves. You breathe again. You cross the line. The Mason-Dixon line. You're in Pennsylvania, a free state, but not safe. The Fugitive Slave Act means they can still come for you. You have to keep going. To Canada. You travel by train, hidden in a boxcar, by boat, across Lake Erie. Finally you see the shore. Canada, the promised land. You step off the boat. The ground feels solid, real. You look at the group. They're crying, laughing, hugging each other. "We made it," the young man says. "We free." You nod. You're tired. Bone tired. But you smile. "You free," you say. You watch them walk away into their new lives, into the snow, into the future. You turn back to the boat. You're going back. Back to the south. Back to the danger. There are more people waiting. More souls to save. You are a conductor. The railroad never stops, and neither will you. You are standing in the middle of a vast, flat expanse of red earth. It is midday in Nicodemus, Kansas, 1878. The sun is unrelenting, a hammer striking an anvil. There are no trees here, only an endless ocean of prairie grass that hisses in the hot wind. Congratulations, you've just woken up in the first all-black settlement on the Great Plains. The good news? You own this land. The bad news? You have absolutely no idea how to farm it, and winter is coming. You are an exoduster. You left the South after Reconstruction collapsed, fleeing the violence and the broken promises. You came seeking the promised land of Kansas, lured by flyers that showed lush fields and thriving towns. What you found was dugouts, holes in the ground with sod roofs, and a landscape that tries to kill you every day. Your house is a dugout. You dug it yourself, carving it out of the side of a hill. The walls are earth, damp and cool. The roof is sod, heavy blocks of grass and dirt held up by cottonwood poles. It is dark inside, smelling of soil and roots. When it rains, the mud drips onto your bed. When it is dry, the dust coats everything. But it is yours. You step outside. The wind hits you, carrying the scent of dry grass and distant rain. You look at your field. It is raw, unbroken prairie. The sod is tough, a tangled mat of roots that has been growing for thousands of years. Your plough, a simple iron blade, struggles to cut through it. You hitch up your mule. He's old, tired, but stubborn, like you. You grip the handles of the plough. "Get up," you say. The mule leans into the harness. The plough bites into the earth. The sound is a tearing, ripping noise. Ripe. You strain against the handles, your muscles burning. You cut a furrow, then another, then another. It is brutal work. The sun beats down on your back. The dust chokes you. The grasshoppers jump in your face, clicking and whirring. You stop for water. Your bucket is warm, the water tasting of the wooden staves. You drink, wiping your mouth with your sleeve. You look at your hands, blistered, bleeding. But they are free hands, working free soil. A neighbour walks over. He is a former soldier, a Buffalo soldier who mustered out and took a claim. He walks with a limp, an old wound from the Apache Wars. "Hot one?" he says. "Sure is," you reply. "Think it'll rain?" You look at the sky, a few clouds, high and thin. "Maybe, maybe not. Kansas is a tease." He nods. "We need rain, the corn is thirsty." "We all thirsty," you say. You talk about the crops, about the town. Nicodemus is growing. A church, a store, a school. People are coming every day, walking from the train station in Ellis, 30 miles away. They arrive tired, hungry, but hopeful. We got to help them, the soldier says. They got nothing. We got nothing either, you say, but we got land. You share what you have. A sack of beans, a few potatoes, a place to sleep on the floor of your dugout. Winter comes early on the plains. The wind changes, turning cold and sharp. The sky turns grey. You harvest your corn. It is a meagre crop, stunted by the drought. But it is something. You grind it into meal. You dry the stalks for fuel. There is no wood here. You burn buffalo chips, dried dung, and twists of grass. The first blizzard hits in November. It is a white wall of fury. The wind screams, driving the snow horizontally. You can't see your hand in front of your face. You retreat into your dugout. You huddle by the stove, burning your precious fuel. The temperature drops. You can see your breath. Frost forms on the inside of the walls. You hear a scratching at the door. You open it a crack. A family stands there. A man, a woman, 2 children. They are wrapped in thin blankets, shivering violently. Their dugout roof collapsed under the snow. Come in, you say. Get warm. They crowd into your small space. It is tight, smelling of unwashed bodies and smoke. But it is warm. You share your cornmeal mush. You share your blankets. You survive the storm together. You tell stories. You sing. You pray. The winter is long. The snow piles up until you have to tunnel out of your door. You run low on food. You eat boiled wheat. You eat rabbits caught in snares. You're hungry, always hungry, but you make it. Spring comes, the snow melts. The mud is deep, sticky, but the grass turns green. The wildflowers bloom. The meadowlarks sing. You walk out into your field. The earth is soft, ready for planting. You look at the horizon. It is wide, open, limitless. You are a homesteader. You are a pioneer. You are building a new world, one furrow at a time. You think about the south, about the fear, about the chains. You look at your hands. They are scarred, rough, but they are your hands, and this is your land. You hitch up the mule. Get up, you say, and you begin again. You're standing on the deck of a whaling ship, the Charles W. Morgan, as it cuts through the icy waters of the North Atlantic. It is 1870. The wind is a gale, screaming through the rigging, freezing the spray onto the ropes until they are thick as your arm. The deck is slick with ice and whale oil, a treacherous skating rink that pitches and rolls with every wave. Congratulations. You've just woken up to the cry of "Thus she blows." The good news? You're about to earn your share of the profits. The bad news? You're a harpooner, and your job is to stand in a tiny wooden boat and throw a spear at a 60-ton leviathan that can smash you to splinters with a twitch of its tail. You're wearing layers of wool, oiled canvas, and fear. Your hands are raw from pulling oars, your face chapped by the salt spray. You grab your harpoon, the iron head cold and heavy. You swing over the side, dropping into the whaleboat. The boat hits the water with a splash. You grab an oar. "Pull!" the mate shouts. "You pull!" The boat surges forward, riding the swells. The whale is ahead, a black mountain rising from the grey sea. Its spout is a geyser of mist. "Steady!" the mate calls. "Steady, boys!" You are close now. You can smell the whale, a fishy, musky odour. You can hear its breath, a deep, hollow sound like a bellows. Stand up! You ship your oar. You stand in the bow, bracing your knee against the thwart. You raise the harpoon. The boat rocks violently. You wait for the right moment, the top of the swell. You throw. The iron flies true, burying itself deep in the whale's blubber. "Stern all!" You scramble back, grabbing the steering oar. The whale dives, the line singing out of the tub. Smoke rises from the loggerhead as the rope burns against the wood. "Wet the line!" you shout. A man throws water on the rope. The boat is towing now, the Nantucket sleigh ride. You're flying across the water, spray blinding you. It is terrifying. It is exhilarating. The whale surfaces, thrashing. The water turns red. You pull up close. The mate takes the lance, a long, sharp blade. He thrusts it into the whale's vitals. The creature shudders, blowing red spray. "Chimneys of fire!" someone yells. The whale dies. It rolls over, fin out. Silence falls. You're exhausted. Your arms feel like lead. But you have a prize. Oil for the lamps of the world. Money for your pocket. You tow the whale back to the ship. The work is just beginning. Cutting in. Boiling. Down. The stench of rendering blubber will fill the air for days. You're a black whaler. You're part of a crew that is more integrated than any other industry in America. On the ship, a man is judged by his skill, not his skin. The captain might be white, the mate Cape Verdean, the harpooner African American. In the boat, you are brothers, but on land, it is different. You walk the streets of New Bedford, or Nantucket, or San Francisco. You see the signs. Whites only. You feel the stares. But on the ocean, you are free. The sea doesn't care about race. It only cares if you can pull an oar. That night you lie in your bunk in the forecastle. It is cramped, smelling of unwashed men and wet wool. The ship groans around you. You think about the whale, the power, the fight. You think about home, about the farm you want to buy, about the family you want to start. You close your eyes. The ship rocks you to sleep. You dream of the deep, of the dark water, of the monsters and the men who hunt them. You are a whaler. You live on the edge, and you wouldn't trade it for anything. You wake up to the rhythmic thump, 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 thump of the paddle wheel churning the muddy water of the Mississippi River. It is 1885. You're lying on a coil of rope on the lower deck of the steamboat Delta Queen. The air is thick with the smell of coal smoke, river mud, and the cargo, bales of cotton stacked high, smelling of dry earth and raw fibre. Congratulations, you've just woken up as a roustabout. The good news? You have a job that pays cash. The bad news? You carry 100-pound sacks on your back up a narrow plank, 12 hours a day, under the watchful eye of a mate who carries a hickory stick. The river is your world. It is a brown, muscular snake that winds through the heart of the country. You know its moods. The lazy currents of summer, the raging floods of spring, the treacherous sandbars that shift overnight. You stand up, stretching your back. It cracks audibly. You are 20, but you feel 40. Your hands are calloused, your shoulders broad and hard. You wear rough trousers and a shirt that has lost its colour to sun and sweat. The boat is docking at a small town. The whistle blows, a long, mournful sound that echoes off the levees. "Look alive down there," the mate shouts. You grab the gangplank, swinging it out. It hits the dirt with a thud. The work begins. You hoist a sack of flour onto your shoulder. It is heavy, settling into the groove you have worn in your muscle. You walk up the plank, the wood bouncing under your weight. You drop the sack on the levee, you turn around, you do it again, and again, and again. Crates of machinery, barrels of molasses, bales of hay. You are a human conveyor belt. The sun beats down on the river, turning the air into steam. Sweat runs into your eyes, stinging. You sing to keep the rhythm. Work songs. Load 'em up, boys. Load 'em high. Sun is hot and the water's dry. The voices of the other, roostabouts join in, a deep resonant chorus. The music helps. It makes the load lighter. You see the passengers on the upper deck. Ladies in white dresses with parasols. Gentlemen in linen suits smoking cigars. They look down at you, at the sweating, singing men below. They see labour. They see muscle. They don't see you. You finish the loading. The whistle blows again. You pull in the plank. The boat backs away from the shore, the paddle wheel churning up mud. You sit on a bale of cotton, catching your breath. You watch the town fade away. A church steeple, a general store, a few houses. Then just trees and water. Lunch is a bucket of stew brought down from the galley. It is mostly potatoes and grease, but you eat it hungrily. You drink river water, filtered through a cloth. It tastes of earth. That night the boat ties up at a woodyard to refuel. You form a line, passing logs from the bank to the boiler deck. The wood is rough, splintery. You wear leather pads on your hands. The firebox glows orange, lighting up the faces of the firemen. They are blackened with soot, shoveling coal and wood into the inferno. The heat is intense. After the work is done, you sit on the deck, listening to the river. A banjo plays somewhere. A man tells a story about a ghost ship that sails the river at midnight, its decks empty, its whistle silent. "They say it's the Sultana," he whispers. "The boat that blew up. Thousands died." You shiver despite the heat. The river holds many ghosts. Slaves who drowned trying to swim to freedom. Soldiers who died on gunboats. Roustabouts who fell overboard and were pulled under by the current. You look at the water. It is black, deep, secretive. You are a riverman. You live on the water, but you're not of it. You're a traveller, passing through. You sleep on the deck, the vibration of the engines rocking you. You dream of the sea, of a place where the water is blue and endless. The next day you reach Memphis. The city rises from the bluffs, a sprawl of brick and noise. The levee is crowded with boats, wagons, people. It is a city of cotton and music and money. You get paid. A handful of silver dollars. You feel rich. You go into town, specifically to Beale Street. It is the heart of Black Memphis. Saloons, gambling halls, music. The air is alive with the sound of the blues, guitars, harmonicas, voices full of pain and joy. You buy a new shirt. You eat a plate of ribs. You drink a beer. You listen to the music. You meet a woman. She has a laugh like a bell. You dance. For a few hours you're not aroused about. You are a man. But the boat leaves at dawn. You have to be there. You walk back to the levee in the early morning light. The river smells of fog and fish. You climb aboard. The mate is there, checking names. "You're late," he growls. "I'm here," you say. You take your place on the deck. The whistle blows. The paddle wheel turns. You watch Memphis disappear. You watch the woman waving from the shore. You turn back to the river. The current pulls you south, down to New Orleans, down to the Gulf. You're moving, always moving. You're a buffalo soldier of the river, fighting the current, fighting the load, and you keep going. You're standing in the middle of a vast silent forest of longleaf pines. The trees soar straight up, 100 feet high, their branches forming a canopy that filters the sunlight into a green haze. The ground is carpeted with pine needles, soft and springy under your feet. It is 1910. Congratulations. You've just woken up in a turpentine camp in southern Georgia. The good news? You have a job. The bad news? You're working in a system that is slavery by another name. Debt peonage. You wear overalls stiff with pine gum, a shirt that was once white, and boots that are falling apart. You carry a hack, a heavy tool with a weighted blade used to cut the face of the pine trees. Your job is to chip the trees. You cut a V-shaped groove into the bark, deep enough to make the sap flow, but not deep enough to kill the tree. It is delicate work, requiring strength and precision. You do it thousands of times a day. The sap, the gum, flows down the cut into a metal cup or a box cut into the base of the tree. It is sticky, pungent, smelling of turpentine and resin. It coats your hands, your clothes, your hair. You can't wash it off. You live in a cloud of pine scent. The camp is isolated, miles from the nearest town. You live in a shack made of rough boards, the wind blowing through the cracks. You buy your food from the company commissary, overpriced beans, meal, and fatback. You're paid in script, tokens that can only be spent at the company store. You're always in debt. The company charges you for your tools, your food, your housing. If you try to leave, the sheriff will bring you back. Vagrancy, they call it, or breach of contract. It means you belong to the company. You walk from tree to tree, chip, chip. The sound echoes in the quiet woods. You're part of a squad, moving in a line. The woods rider, the overseer, follows on horseback, a pistol on his hip. "Keep it moving," he shouts. "Don't lag." You work from can see to can't see, dawn to dusk. Your arms ache, your back screams, but you keep chipping. The forest is beautiful in a cruel way. The light, the silence, the smell of the pines. But it is a prison without walls. You see a snake, a diamondback rattler coiled at the base of a tree. You step back slowly. The woods rider sees it too. He pulls his pistol and shoots the snake's head off. "Get back to work," he says, holstering the gun. He doesn't care about you. He cares about the gum. Turpentine is naval stores, essential for ships, for paint, for industry. It is liquid gold, and you are the machine that extracts it. One day, a new man arrives. He is young, strong, but angry. He talks about unions, about strikes, about leaving. "We ain't slaves," he whispers at night, huddled around the fire. "We men." You listen. You want to believe him. But you have seen what happens to men who run. The dogs, the beatings, the chain gang. "Just keep your head down," an older man says. "Do your time." "There ain't no end to the time," the young man says. "The debt just grows." A few nights later, the young man is gone. He ran. The woods rider gathers you all in the morning. He looks angry. "Anyone who knows where he went better speak up," he says. Silence. No one speaks. They bring the dogs, bloodhounds. They bay, pulling at the leashes. They find the scent. You hear the shots later that day. Distant flat sounds in the woods. The woods rider returns alone. He doesn't say anything. He just looks at you. The message is clear. You go back to chipping. Chip, chip. The rhythm of the work takes over. It numbs your mind. It keeps you from thinking about the young man, about the debt, about the fence that isn't there but holds you anyway. But you watch. You learn the woods. You learn the paths the deer take. You learn where the water is. You save your script. You hide a little food. One night, a storm comes. Thunder shakes the shacks. The rain comes down in sheets. The dogs won't be able to track in this. You look at the older man. He's sleeping, his face lined with years of turpentine and sorrow. You get up. You take your bundle. You step out into the rain. The woods are dark, terrifying, but they are also shelter. You run. You don't look back. You head north, toward the railroad tracks. You have heard that if you can catch a freight train, you can get to Atlanta, to Chicago, to freedom. You run until your legs give out. You hide in a culvert as the sun comes up. You are cold, wet, scared, but you are out. You are not chipping pine trees. You are not a debt slave. You hear the whistle of a train. It is a lonely, mournful sound. But to you, it sounds like hope. You wait for night. You climb the embankment. The train rumbles past, a long line of boxcars. You run alongside, grabbing a ladder. You pull yourself up. You are moving, fast. The wind rushes past you. The smell of pine fades, replaced by coal smoke. You curl up in the corner of the car. You're hungry. You're tired. You don't know where you're going, but you're going. You're a survivor of the piney woods. You have turpentine in your veins, and you are free. You close your eyes. The rhythm of the wheels on the track lulls you. Click, clack, click, clack. It is the sound of a new life. You're standing on a street corner in Harlem, New York. It is 1925. The air is electric, filled with the blare of taxi horns, the chatter of voices, and the distant driving rhythm of jazz spilling from an open window. The smell of frying chicken, exhaust fumes, and expensive perfume mingles in the humid summer night. Congratulations. You've just woken up in the middle of the Harlem Renaissance. The good news, you're witnessing an explosion of black culture, art, and intellect. The bad news? You are broke, and rent is due. You are wearing a suit that was stylish 3 years ago, the elbows worn shiny. Your shoes are polished to a high sheen, hiding the cardboard insoles. You have a notebook in your pocket, filled with poems scribbled in pencil. You are a writer, or you want to be. You came from the South, part of the Great Migration, chasing the dream of a place where your voice matters. You work as a porter in a white hotel downtown, carrying bags for people who don't look at you. But at night, you are here, in Harlem. You walk down Lenox Avenue. It is a parade. Women in flapper dresses with feathers in their hair, men in zoot suits and fedoras, writers, musicians, artists, hustlers. You see Langston Hughes standing on a corner laughing with a group of friends. You see Zora Neale Hurston wearing a hat that looks like a sculpture, talking animatedly with her hands. You want to talk to them, to join them, but you are shy. You are nobody. Yet. You go to a rent party. A sign in a window says Social Whist Party. Admission 25 cents. Refreshments. It is a way for people to pay their exorbitant rent. Harlem landlords charge black tenants double what they charge whites. You climb the stairs to the 3rd floor. The door is open. The apartment is packed. A piano player is pounding out a stride rhythm. His hands a blur. People are dancing, the floorboard shaking. The smell of collard greens and ham hocks is heavy in the air. You pay your quarter. You get a plate of food and a cup of gin. It burns going down, but it warms you. You find a corner, watching. The energy is infectious. It is joy, defiant and loud. A woman asks you to dance. She's older, with kind eyes. You dance, stumbling a little. She laughs, guiding you. "You new here, honey?" she asks. "Yes, ma'am," you say. "Just got here." "Well, you in the right place," she says. "Harlem got room for everybody, even poets." She winks. How did she know? You leave the party late. The streets are still busy. You walk past the Cotton Club. White people in evening clothes are getting out of limousines. They come to Harlem to watch black people perform, but black people can't sit in the audience. It is a bitter irony. You go back to your room. It is small, a kitchenette shared with 2 other men. You sit by the window looking out at the streetlights. You open your notebook. You write. You write about the rent party, about the music, about the woman with the kind eyes. You write about the anger and the hope. You write until your pencil dulls. The next morning you go to work. You put on your porter's uniform. You become invisible again, but you have the notebook in your pocket. You have the secret. One day you meet a man in a bookstore. He's an editor for The Crisis, the NNACP magazine. You show him your poems. He reads them, nodding. "This is good," he says. "Raw, real. We might publish this." Your heart stops. Publish. Your words. Your voice. It happens. Your poem appears in the magazine. You see your name in print. You buy 10 copies. You send one to your mother in Alabama. You're part of it now. The Renaissance. You go to the salons. You meet the other writers. You argue about art and politics and race. You drink bad wine and dream big dreams. But the Depression comes. 1929. The stock market crashes. The money dries up. The parties stop. The white patrons disappear. Harlem changes. The joy turns to desperation. People are hungry. Evictions are common. The music gets sadder. You lose your job at the hotel. You work odd jobs. Dishwasher, street sweeper. You sell apples on the corner. But you keep writing. You write about the breadlines, about the riots, about the people who are still standing, still fighting. You're a chronicler, a witness. Years pass. You grow old. Harlem changes again. New music, new struggles. But the spirit remains. You walk down Lenox Avenue. You're an elder now. People nod to you. They know you. You are the poet. You stop at the corner where you once saw Langston Hughes. He is gone. Zora is gone. But their words are still here, and yours. You look at the young people. They are angry, beautiful, full of fire. They are the new Renaissance. You smile. You did your part. You added your verse to the song. You turn and walk home. The sun is setting, casting long shadows. But the lights of Harlem are coming on. Bright. Defiant. Eternal. You are sitting in the driver's seat of a 1949 Buick Roadmaster, the steering wheel large and smooth under your hands. It is midnight, somewhere in Alabama, 1955. The road ahead is a tunnel of darkness, the headlights cutting a narrow path through the trees. The humidity is suffocating, a wet blanket that makes your shirt stick to the leather seat. Congratulations, you've just woken up as a traveller in the Jim Crow South. The good news? You have a car, a symbol of freedom and mobility. The bad news? You're black, and you're driving through a sundown town after dark. Your knuckles are white on the wheel. You're tired, your eyes burning from hours of staring at the road. But you can't stop. Not here. You saw the sign at the city limits. Njin, don't let the sun set on you here. You need gas. The needle is hovering near empty. You pass a station, closed and dark. You pass another, closed. You pray for an open station, one that will serve you. You have the green book on the seat beside you. It is your Bible, your map, your lifeline. The Negro Motorist Green Book. It lists the hotels, restaurants and gas stations that are safe for black travellers. You check it constantly, memorising the names of the towns, the addresses of the boarding houses. You see lights ahead, a gas station, open. A white man is sitting in a chair out front reading a newspaper. You slow down. You check the green book. This station isn't listed. Is it safe? Do you risk it? The gas gauge is on E. You have no choice. You pull. In. You get out slowly, keeping your hands visible. "Evening, sir," you say, keeping your voice calm, respectful. "Just need some gas." The man lowers the newspaper. He looks at you, then at your car. He spits on the ground. "Pump's broken," he says. You know it isn't. You can see the handle. You can smell the gasoline, but you don't argue. Arguing gets you killed. "Thank you, sir," you say. You get back in the car. You drive away, your heart pounding. You drive for another 20 miles, sweating, watching the gauge. Finally, you see another station. A small, run-down shack with a coloured restroom sign around the back. It is listed in the book. You pull in. An older black man comes out, wiping his hands on a rag. He smiles. "Evening," he says. "Fill her up?" "Please," you say, "and check the oil." He fills the tank. You pay him. He leans in the window. "Watch yourself up the road," he says quietly. "Sheriff in the next county is mean, likes to pull folks over for nothing." "Thanks," you say. "I'll be careful." You drive on. The warning stays with you. You check your speed. You check your lights. You drive perfectly. You see headlights in your rearview mirror. A car coming up fast. It slows down, tailing you. You can see the silhouette of a light bar on the roof. Police. Your stomach drops. You keep your hands on the wheel. You don't speed up. You don't slow down. The lights flash. You pull over. The sheriff walks up to your window. He shines a flashlight in your face. "Where you going, boy?" "Birmingham, officer," you say, "visiting family." "You're a long way from home," he says. "Let me see your license." You hand it to him. He looks at it, then at you. He walks around the car, shining the light inside. He kicks the tyres. "You got a taillight out," he says. You know you don't. You checked them before you left. "I'll get it fixed right away, sir," you say. "See that you do," he says, "and get out of my county. I don't want to see you again." "Yes, sir." He hands back your license. He walks back to his car. You wait until he pulls away before you start the engine. Your hands are shaking so bad you can barely turn the key. You drive. You don't stop until you cross the county line. You reach Birmingham at dawn. The city is waking up. You drive through the black neighbourhood, the 4th Avenue district. You see businesses owned by black people, barbershops, theatres, funeral homes. You see people walking to work, heads high. You find the boarding house listed in the Green Book. Mrs. Johnson's, a nice house with a porch swing. You knock. Mrs. Johnson opens the door. She's a motherly woman in an apron. "Come in, baby," she says. "You look tired." You step inside. The house smells of bacon and coffee. It is safe. You are safe. You sleep for 12 hours. When you wake up, you eat a meal at the dining table with other travellers. A salesman from Chicago, a teacher from Atlanta, a musician from New Orleans. You share stories. Stories of the road, stories of the fear, stories of the small victories. "I found a diner in Tennessee that served me inside," the salesman says. "Good pie." "I got pulled over in Mississippi," the musician says. "Cost me $20 to get away." "We keep moving," the teacher says. "That's the important thing. We don't let them stop us." You nod. You are part of a network. A secret society of travellers navigating a hostile world. You have your book. You have your car. You have your wits. You stay in Birmingham for a few days. You visit your family. You go to church. You see the joy and the pain of the community. Then it is time to go. You pack your bag. You check the car. You open the Green Book. "Where to next?" Mrs. Johnson asks. "Memphis," you say. "Then St. Louis." "Be careful," she says. "Praying for you." You drive out of the city. The road stretches ahead. It is a dangerous road, but it is your road. You turn on the radio. A gospel quartet is singing. "This Little Light of Mine." You sing along. You drive. You are moving. You are free. The miles roll by. The landscape changes. Pine forests, cotton fields, rivers. You see a sign. White only. You ignore it. You keep driving. You're a traveller. You're a pioneer. You're driving through the heart of darkness, carrying your own light, and you will not stop. You stand at the bottom of a stone wall so perfectly fitted that you cannot slide a knife blade between the blocks. The granite feels cool against your palm, smoother than any stone you have touched in nature. It is night in Great Zimbabwe, the 14th century. The air is crisp, carrying the scent of wood smoke and the dry, sweet smell of the savanna grass cooling after a long day of heat. Congratulations, you've just woken up in the capital of a kingdom that controls the gold trade of the entire region. The good news? You're a master builder, respected for your skill. The bad news? You have to build a tower 30 feet high without mortar, using only gravity and geometry to keep it standing. The city around you is silent, a labyrinth of stone enclosures and thatch-roofed huts. The great enclosure, the massive wall you are building, looms above you, a testament to the power of the king. It is a mystery to outsiders, a marvel of engineering. You pick up a stone. It is heavy, shaped by hours of chipping with a dolerite hammer. You feel the weight, the balance. You know exactly where it must go. You climb the scaffolding, a precarious structure of wooden poles lashed together with leather thongs. The wind whistles through the gaps. You are high up now. You can see the whole valley bathed in moonlight. You place the stone. It clicks into place with a satisfying sound. You check the alignment. Perfect. The wall curves, a graceful arc that mimics the landscape. There are no straight lines here. Everything flows. You work through the night. The rhythm of the building takes over. Lift, place, check. Lift, place, check. Your hands are rough. Your muscles aching. But you feel a deep satisfaction. You're building something that will last forever. Below you, the city sleeps. But it is not empty. You hear the lowing of cattle in the pens. Cattle are wealth here. The king has thousands. You think about the trade routes, the gold that comes from the mines to the west, the ivory from the elephant herds, the cloth and beads that come from the coast. brought by traders from Arabia and India and China. You have seen shards of porcelain from the Ming dynasty, glass beads from Venice. This city is connected to the world. Morning comes, the sun rises over the granite hills, painting the walls in shades of gold and pink. The stone glows. It is alive. Other builders join you, men with strong backs and skilled hands. You work together, a team. There is no mortar to mix, no waiting for it to dry. Just the stone and the skill. The king comes to inspect the work. He's a tall man, draped in leopard skins and gold jewellery. He nods approval. Good, he says, it is strong. It will stand for 1,000 years, you say. He smiles. Good. You finish your shift, you climb down, your legs are shaky, you are hungry, you go to your hut. Your wife has prepared a meal of sadza, a thick porridge made from millet, and stewed greens. You eat with your fingers, dipping the sadza into the stew. It is filling, comforting. You rest. You listen to the sounds of the city, the pounding of grain, the laughter of children, the low murmur of conversation. This is civilization, organized, prosperous, powerful. But there are rumours. The Portuguese are coming. Men from the sea with guns and greed. They want the gold. They want the trade. You worry. Can the walls keep them out? Can the stone stop the bullets? You look at the tower you built. It is solid, unshakable. We will endure, you whisper. You're a builder of great Zimbabwe. You have left your mark on the earth. Years pass. The kingdom declines. The trade routes shift. The city is abandoned. The grass grows over the huts. The cattle are gone, but the walls remain. Centuries later, people will come. They will look at the stone and wonder, who built this? How did they do it? Some will say it was aliens, or a lost white tribe. They cannot believe that Africans could build such a thing. But you know, you were there. You stand in the moonlight, a ghost among the ruins. You touch the stone. It is still cool, still smooth. We built this, you say, with our hands, with our minds. The wind blows through the great enclosure. It sounds like a whisper. We were here. You're standing in the middle of a desert, but the air is not hot. It is cool, almost chilly, conditioned by wind catchers that funnel the breeze down into the building. You are in Timbuktu, 1450, the city of gold, the city of books. Congratulations, you've just woken up as a scholar at the Sankore Madrasa. The good news? You are in one of the greatest centres of learning in the world. The bad news? You have to copy a manuscript on astronomy by hand, and if you make a single mistake, you have to start over. The room is quiet, filled with the scratching of reed pens on parchment. The smell of ink and old paper is intoxicating. You're surrounded by knowledge, mathematics, law, medicine, history, books from Cordoba, from Baghdad, from Cairo. You dip your pen, you write. The script is elegant, flowing. You are preserving wisdom for the future. Outside, the city is bustling. Caravans from the north arrive, bringing salt. Caravans from the south bring gold. The markets are full of people speaking a dozen languages. You take a break. You walk through the streets. You see the mosques built of mud and timber, their minarets rising into the blue sky. You see the wealth. Gold dust is used as currency. You meet a trader from Morocco. He tells you about the world beyond the desert, about the ocean, about the wars in Europe. They say the world is round, he says. We know, you say. We calculated it. He looks surprised. You smile. Timbuktu is not just a trading post. It is a university. You go back to your work. The sun sets. The air cools further. You light an oil lamp. You write late into the night. You are a keeper of the flame. Centuries later, invaders will come. They will burn the city. They will try to destroy the books. But you and your fellow scholars will hide them. You will bury them in the sand. You will seal them in walls. You will smuggle them out in caravans. You will save the knowledge. Today, Timbuktu is threatened again. War, extremism, climate change. The desert is encroaching. But the manuscripts survived. They are being digitized, preserved. You stand in the library, a ghost among the hard drives. You touch a screen. You see your handwriting. It is still here, you whisper. You're a scholar of Timbuktu. You're part of the chain. The wind blows through the desert. It carries the sand. It carries the history. You wake to the sound of metal ringing against metal. a rhythmic driving beat that echoes through the narrow street. It is morning in the French Quarter, New Orleans, 1830. The air is thick with humidity, smelling of chicory coffee, river mud, and the sweet yeasty scent of beignets frying in hot oil. Congratulations, you've just woken up as a free person of colour, a gens de couleur libre. The good news, you're a master blacksmith, an artist in iron. The bad news, you live in a society that is constantly trying to erode your freedom, passing laws to restrict your movement, your rights, your very existence. You stand in the doorway of your shop, wiping your hands on a leather apron. The street is waking up. Vendor carts rattle over the cobblestones. Women in tignons, elaborate head wraps mandated by law but turned into symbols of beauty and defiance, walk to the market, baskets on their arms. You're forging a gate for a wealthy Creole family. It is intricate work, a design of scrolling vines and leaves. You heat the iron in the forge until it glows orange-white. You hammer it on the anvil, sparks flying like fireworks. You twist the metal, shaping it to your will. The iron is hot, dangerous, but under your hands it becomes fluid. You're writing your name in the city, not with ink, but with iron. Every balcony, every fence, every gate in the quarter bears the mark of your people. A white man walks into your shop. He's a planter, wealthy, arrogant. He looks at your work. "How much for a gate like that?" he asks. You tell him the price. He frowns. "That's high." "It's fair," you say, "for the quality." He looks at you, really looks at you. He sees a man who is skilled, independent, proud. It unsettles him. "I'll pay it," he says grudgingly. You nod. "It will be ready in a week." He leaves. You go back to work. You hammer the iron. Clang, clang, clang. It is the sound of your freedom. That evening you go to Congo Square. It is Sunday, the one day when enslaved people and free people of colour can gather openly. The square is a riot of colour and sound. Drums are beating, bambula, kalinda. People are dancing, moving in circles, their bodies remembering the rhythms of Africa. You see a woman dancing. She's wearing a white dress, a red tignon. She moves with a grace that stops your heart. She is enslaved, but in this moment she is free. You join the circle, you clap your hands, you sing. The music builds. It is the root of everything that will come later. Jazz, blues, rock and roll. It all starts here, in this square, on this dusty ground. The sun sets, the drums stop, the spell breaks, the woman leaves. She goes back to her master. You go back to your shop, but the music stays with you. Years pass. The Civil War comes. New Orleans falls to the Union. You're there when the soldiers march in. You see the flag. Reconstruction. A brief shining moment of hope. You vote. You hold office. You build schools. Then, the backlash. Jim Crow. Segregation. The walls go up again. But your iron remains, the gates, the balconies. They stand through hurricanes, through fires, through floods. You walk through the quarter today. You're a ghost, but your work is real. You touch a fence. The iron is cool, smooth. "I made this," you whisper. You're an artisan of New Orleans. You forged a city. You forged a life. And the iron still sings. You're standing on the edge of a cliff, looking down at a river that churns white through a narrow gorge. The sound is deafening, a roar that vibrates in your chest. It is 1899 in the mountains of Ethiopia. The air is thin, crisp, smelling of eucalyptus and dust. Congratulations. You've just woken up as a soldier in the army of Emperor Menelik III. The good news, you are part of the only African nation to successfully resist European colonization. The bad news, the Italians are coming back and they have machine guns. You are wearing a white shama, a cotton wrap that serves as both clothing and blanket. You carry a rifle, a Russian-made Badan, heavy and reliable, and a curved Chotel sword. You're tired. You have marched for weeks, crossing mountains and deserts to reach this place. Adwa. The camp is vast. Tents stretch for miles. Smoke from thousands of fires fills the valley. You see warriors from every region of the empire. Oromo horsemen, Tigrayan riflemen, Amhara swordsmen. They speak different languages, but they fight for one king, one land. Menelik rides through the camp. He is an imposing figure, bearded, calm. Beside him rides Empress Tetu, fierce and unyielding. She commands her own army, thousands strong. "They think we are savages," she says, her voice carrying over the noise of the camp. "They think we will run. We will show them." The battle begins at dawn. The Italians attack confident in their superior technology. But they underestimate the terrain, they underestimate the numbers, they underestimate you. You charge. You run up the steep slopes dodging bullets. You fire, reload, fire. The noise is chaos. You reach the Italian lines. It is hand to hand now, sword against bayonet, courage against steel. You see an Italian officer. He looks terrified. He didn't expect this. He didn't expect a wall of men who refuse to die. The battle lasts all day. The sun beats down. You're thirsty, exhausted, but you keep fighting. By afternoon, the Italians are broken. They retreat, leaving their artillery, their supplies, their dead. You stand on the battlefield. It is quiet now. The smoke clears. You look at the mountains. They are yours. They will always be yours. You are a victor of Adwa. You have changed history. Years pass. The world changes. But Ethiopia remains free. You tell your children about the battle, about the day Africa stood up. We were lions, you say. You are an old man now. You sit in the sun, watching the eucalyptus trees sway in the wind. You close your eyes. You hear the roar of the river. You hear the shout of the warriors. You smile. You're free. You're walking through a field of tall grass, the stalks brushing against your waist. It is twilight. The sky a deep indigo streaked with violet. Fireflies are blinking into existence. Tiny stars drifting in the warm air. It is South Carolina, 1862. The air smells of salt marsh and pine resin. Congratulations. You've just woken up in the middle of the Combahee River raid. The good news? Harriet Tubman is leading the way. The bad news? You're running toward gunboats, and the Confederates are right behind you. You hear the whistle of the steamboat. It is a strange sound here, deep in the plantation country. A sound of machinery, of power. Run, a voice whispers. It is a woman's voice, raspy and urgent. You run. You carry a bundle of clothes, a hoe, a chicken, everything you own. You're running toward the river. You reach the bank. The boat is there. Its paddle wheel churning the water. People are streaming aboard, hundreds of them, men, women, children. Come on, a soldier shouts. He is black, a Union soldier. He reaches out a hand. You grab it. He pulls you up. You stumble onto the deck. The boat is crowded. People are crying, singing, praying. You find a spot near the rail. You look back at the shore. You see torches, the overseers. They are shooting, but they are too late. The boat pulls away. The whistle blows again, a triumphant blast. Harriet Tubman stands on the bow. She is small, wrapped in a shawl. She looks like a prophet. She raises her hand. "Glory!" she shouts. "Glory!" the crowd answers. The boat moves down the river, past the rice fields, past the big houses, past the life you knew. You watch the fireflies. They are dancing over the water, leading you home. You are free. The stories fade. The voices quiet. The wind dies down. You are back in your own time, in your own bed. The room is safe, warm, silent. But you carry the memories, the cold of Montana, the heat of the cane fields, the smell of the swamp, the sound of the iron. These are not just stories. They are the bones of the world you live in. They are the foundation. You close your eyes. You breathe deeply. You are part of the chain. You are the legacy. Sleep now. The history holds you.